Hey, this is the November video chat with fans. I have a few announcements this time. Um, okay, so I guess a summary of what happened with me last month. Last month I kept working and working on this game dungeon that just kept going on forever. So I think it was around the 8th of October I decided uh you know what, this is taking too long. I've got to make sure I'm on time for the Halloween video. Yeah, my original plan was to have a game dungeon, Freeman's Mind, a Halloween video. I was gonna have Martian Gothic for sure, and then maybe an extra one if I had time. But then I thought, like, this is taking too long. I've got to start a Halloween now. So since I did that, I thought, oh, okay, since I'm not finishing this off, maybe I have time have more for Halloweens, which is what I ended up doing. That ended up not being so wise. I think the second week in October, I was doing around like 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then I realized that's still a long way to go. So like the week after that, I was doing about 11 to 12 hours a day, still watching something like in the evening or playing a little bit. That final week, it was about 14 to 15 hours a day. I'm pretty sure I put in 90 to 100 hours that last week just getting the game dungeons finished. I guess in the previous weeks, I was also kind of finishing up some Freeman's Mind stuff too. So, and that was a reminder to me, wait a minute, Ross, you were supposed to prevent this from happening again. And so I had to kind of relearn the lesson from that. I was not in a great, my original plan was to have this done by the 30th at the latest, preferably a little sooner so I could kind of enjoy Halloween. Nope. It just went, it was a mess. I'm too slow is the problem. So in light of that, well, there's two. In light of that, I've talked before how I've been trying to get like editing help, and then decided, maybe not. I've got to get less picky. I think it's possible I could change my mind later, so I don't want to make this a complete ultimatum. But right now, it feels like no. I'm still gonna write the scripts, record most of the footage, do the initial audio editing, but I'm going to. I think that might be the last game dungeon I'm going to do all the editing on, and try to kick it to somebody else. From when I did testing last time, I think there's someone I want to start off working with. I am open to working with more editors, but I really kind of have to set up a sort of test run for people too. So I have to kind of get a sacrificial episode going that I don't care how long it takes. Like it could be coming out 5 months from now or something. That's okay. This will be the one where multiple editors are working on like the first 5 minutes of it or something like that. Like the way I did it last time, yeah, I kind of handled things not as efficiently as I could have before, but so anyway, yeah, my mind's already all over the place. So the point is, for future game dungeons, I'm gonna have someone else like do the bulk of the editing, and I'm just gonna have to be less picky on some things. Again, I'm still gonna be the quality control. I'm still writing all the script. I'm still writing everything, but just actually putting it together, choosing what footage goes with what, that sort of thing. And even then, I'll look it over too. I thought, well, okay, this part really doesn't feel good, but it's gonna change inevitably because someone else is gonna be putting more of it together. But I mean, I'll give a lot of notes and everything. But yeah, what I did last time with editors was I was using the Echo episode, which in some ways was a good choice. In other ways, it wasn't. This time I'll have to work ahead and have some episode where, again, I don't care when it comes out. Like it won't be for this month or next month or whatever. It's going to be the one I'm going to kind of test people on. Then once I found some good people, then I'll finish it off later. But in the meantime, I'll probably work with the guy who's sort of my top pick from the previous one. But the way it would work with different video editors is I was having them edit like the first 5 minutes of the episode, so I'm not wasting too much of their time if it didn't go well. And then I paid them a small amount for that. And as I say this, if there's anyone I forgot to pay by all means, email me again. Actually, if you're one of the editors involved before and I never got back to you, or I said I'm still working on this, you can email me again. In fact, this kind of goes to anyone who's contacted me. I plan to get to you eventually, but I'm not always the best organization-wise, so if you want to bump yourself up, that's no problem. You know, you can just reply to the same email, just reminding me you're there. That's fine. But that's going to be a slower process. However, I should be able to hit the ground running with the other guy, and he's just going to take as long as he needs to, and we're going to go back and forth and see how it works. And even then, we're probably going to work in like 5-minute chunks at a time just to before I open it up more. So that'll be one change. And the other change, somebody asked a question this time that was a reminder of other questions I've gotten before, which is another thing that just kind of woke me up again, that like our future game dungeon is going to be more like this long form, kind of run through the entire plot synopsis. And I realized, no, that's actually not what I've been wanting to do. That's just sort of where I've been drifting towards. I was thinking, you know how like roads are crowned? So, you know, if you just take your hands off the wheel, it kind of drifts to the side, like if you're driving on it. That's kind of what I've been doing with the plot synopsis, where I was just sort of going through the motions of it. And that's really not what I wanted to do. I mean, I want to cover the plot for some games for sure to talk about it, but not to the extent I've been doing it. So future game dungeons are going to be a little more wild as far as the structure to them, because I don't want it to be just like a normal review where like, okay, let's look at this aspect, let's look at this aspect, but I don't want it to be just a playthrough either where I'm just kind of showing highlights. I kind of want to just kind of bounce around wherever I want to go with it, but some things with the plot I do want to show, but I'll leave big chunks out in the future. Yes, as I was saying, Martian Gothic's plot summary. See, I probably would have cut out more of that, or maybe talk more about different things, that sort of thing, as opposed to showing every last little detail. I mean, there's plenty. A lot of the Martian Gothic probably would have stayed the same, but yeah, it's yeah. So it's like Hofstadter's law. I don't know that one. Always takes longer than you expect. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like the last Freeman's Mine, I was hoping, like the guy who worked on the volume balancing, I actually wanted to hand him everything, but I knew that was gonna take longer, and I was like, I already wanted this out last month, like the Freeman's Mine episode. So I just went and plowed through it myself. Okay, no joke. For me to do the volume balancing and just the volume balancing and like tiny audio fixes, that took me over 4 hours. And that's a 15-minute episode because I'm balancing my audio peaks. You know, if I say something and it's like, whoa, that's way too loud compared to like when I'm talking, that's one level of balancing. Then I have to balance it against like the game audio. To be fair, this episode took more than usual. I want it a little bit louder if the characters are talking, but say I'm interrupting them. It's like, okay, well now I have to lower it. And also the sound effects that were provided for the extra ones. And even then, I didn't do like the best job on it. It's just that it's a lot better than if I just thrown it all in there. Then you would have had trouble understanding what I'm saying for certain parts or what the characters are saying, that sort of thing. So I was thinking this would take me like 1, maybe 2 hours. No, it took 4 over. Yeah, and again, working on lots of things at once. I'm noticing with the audio, a lot of my audio, like, okay, there's normal audio noise you get when recording. Like, say you do like a K sound or G's, like claptrap or something, you know. You get little clicks from that. That's normal. Or if certain syllables can kind of bring some noise with them that you sometimes need to filter out. That's normal. But there's sometimes I'm saying stuff and it's almost what I would describe as like a micro click. It's like the tiniest little change and then like it's still an audible click where I could be saying a word like walrus. There's nothing really in that word to click, but like right in that A, there's this tiniest micro click. So I'm wondering if you have if you're an experienced audio person, the next time I notice it, maybe I can put a link up. I'll put up an example. Maybe you can tell if something is happening. Like maybe there's some software configuration on my end that's like something's wrong. Because that creates a lot of extra work, filtering all that crap out. So so I'm really trying to, yeah, actually, that's another thing. I'd probably be fine with more people involved with, the audio processing once it's the recording set up, that sort of thing. So, but again, I have to kind of set up a test for that, see if it kind of meets sort of my minimum standards. Although I'm going to get more lax than I was before because I can't put in those kinds of if I'm putting in those kinds of hours, it needs, well, actually, I don't want to put in those kinds of hours, just period, like the 90 to 100 hours a week. But if I am putting in long hours, I want it to be more on the movie, not game dungeons. So, yeah, those are the two changes that are coming. I'm gonna have somebody else do the bulk of the video editing, and the form is gonna be a little bit more what I wanted it to be. And I just sort of needed a reminder that, wait a minute, Ross, you're not trying to cover the entire game story, so it may be even a little more chaotic, but hopefully I am hoping this will be a good thing overall, because with another video editor looking at it, they're going to be able to do the polish on it. They can take their time, and I'm not going to be like, oh God, I got to get this done, And I want to say right now, while I have a game in mind, there's a chance there may not be a Christmas episode, depending on how this goes, because I don't want to do the 100-hour work weeks or anything like that again. So, yeah, and the thing is, I can cut corners and not take things as neatly as I should. I really want everything to be on even though I mentioned this before, even though Duke Nukem Forever gave it a bad name, the when it's done basis, because if the editor needs more time, fine, I can start on a new video. Like I think I want everybody. I mean, I don't want things to just come to a standstill, but I want people to just kind of be able to take a comfortable pace at everything. I think it works out better then. Yeah, so no, Christmas is not canceled yet, and I'm going to try and make sure it does it. Like, I want to do one. I'm rewriting that game dungeon that's taking forever because I realized I was falling into that plot trap again, where I'm just covering every little detail. It's probably still going to be a sizable one because there's so much stuff I had to say about it. The next game dungeon is going to be, it's going to have a lot of gameplay focus, talking about like what is going on here. So, let's see. So yeah, those are the two big announcements. Yeah, because I was losing my mind towards it again. Yeah, another announcement. YouTube has added the option to appoint people for that they can't delete videos or control your entire channel, but they can submit subtitles. They really should have had this about 10 years ago, but better late than never. So Daniel from the forums, he's always been on top of that sort of thing. Yeah, if there's ever been like the subtitles, just you've submitted them, they haven't showed up, that's entirely my fault. I was kind of delegating that to my wife since she could have access to the account, and she had a hard time staying on top of it. Now she doesn't have to. Now Daniel's in charge of all of it, so subtitle support for everything is going to get way better. If you want to make subtitles any language for any video on the channel, go to the Accursed Farms forums, accursedfarms.com. You can submit them there. Daniel will take care of it, and now he has authorization to submit subtitles to any video. So that's some good. I imagine this in light of that, because I already had a subtitle system set up, this channel could become one of the more transcribed channels out there, I think, especially in different languages, because I've had support for that a long time. It's just that you can see I'm not the best at managing a million different things, so I always tended to just neglect the subtitles, unfortunately. But now that doesn't matter because someone else can deal with it. So, oh yeah, and for the, oh yeah, I mentioned my email earlier, rosswscott@gmail.com. I meant to say for the editors, I have to double check what the percent, like for payment, the way that's going to work is I'm just going to give a percentage of the YouTube profits for it. I usually do that for like the first year. I mean, the fairest thing would be to just have it be ongoing. It's just that I don't want to have to deal with the accounting work forever. But I don't want to promise this. I think I was, again, this isn't set in stone, but I think the last time it was in like the neighborhood of like 30% of the profits for that. And I'd be fine with doing more, but actually, unless you're in the European Union, I have to pay taxes on whatever I pay to the person also. And I'm already giving like 10% for somebody who's helping me trim down the audio for Game Dungeon. So there's only so many percentages I can give away, but and yeah, actually there is a feature on YouTube now that you can let people look at all your financial data. So any editors I stick with, I'll add them to that so they don't even have to, that's less record keeping for me, which is great. So they'll be able to verify themselves how much the videos are earning. So it might have been a little higher than 30%. I forget exactly. Yeah, like if it's really confusing. Like in Poland, in order to deduct like that as like a business expense, they need a special receipt that they won't accept it from anywhere, but I think they accept it from within the European Union. So if I can get that special receipt, then I can make the percentage a little higher for that. Otherwise, I have to pay that as though it's normal income for me, even though it's handed to somebody else. But anyway, I have emails typed up on this stuff. So just saying, I thought editors got a flat rate. I don't know if I can afford yeah, see, that's the other thing. I'm trying to transition to help. I probably can't afford like great help, because, or what people, yeah, I'll say this right now. I'm probably not going to pay you what you're worth. And it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I really like being able to afford food and rent. But that's why I figure percentage is a little fairer because then you get to see the stats. And if something were to go wrong, like let's say it got flagged for whatever reason and like it just lost all income, what I would do, in fact, I did that before for the Phantasmagoria video because I knew I wasn't going to be able to monetize that. I'll just take a similar game dungeon like the one before that was popular and just apply the metrics as though it was the same. So, okay, so let's say this got demonetized, but the last video got 100,000 views and it earned this much. Okay, we'll just apply that rate to this as though it earned that. So nobody's gonna get screwed, but the rates it's probably gonna come out to less than minimum wage, to be honest. Like I always want to warn people, if you want to have like a good career and make money, you should stay away from me. I swear I'm not trying to exploit anyone, but it's just, how many people can you hire with like sort of, middle class income? It gets, I hate dealing with this stuff, but we'll see. Okay, so yeah, I should get to the question. Let's see, is there another? Oh yeah, I think this may not affect much, but in light of last week and this week, I've mostly been catching up on other things. And yesterday I had the latest Freeman's Mind. I might do that thing again where I take 2 or 3 days off, like I did back in January. Because I don't know, I think I'm having these moods where sometimes I just like, I stop caring about everything. Like just like, I just want to stop working. So it's I think I'm at a point where I can afford to do that for a couple days. So, okay, so yeah, let me get to the questions. And I don't have them pulled up. So, oh, okay, yeah, chat. There hasn't been like a giant echo, has there? I always forget. I don't think there should be. Oh man, maybe there has been. No, I don't think there was. Let's see. Hasn't been recording. Okay, good. Yeah, once again, if there's ever like a major technical problem, spam the chat with capital letter statements. Like, I'll I'll notice at that point. So, okay, let's see. Yeah, there's no clicking either because I'm using Apple's AAC encoder instead of the default one for OBS. God, that took a long time to fix for me to realize that was the issue. Okay. Hold on, I gotta pull up the questions. But yeah, that's yeah, that's the other thing. None of these plans should impact Freeman's mind in a negative way. In fact, Freeman's mind is going to be. I've been wanting to catch up on that. So Freeman's mind's going to get a lot more treatment. Most likely, next few months. So yeah, because I kind of have to do the editing on that, or not necessarily the volume balancing, but the main editing. It's just intrinsic to the format of how it's made. Yeah, I was pretty happy with the last one. I mean, I didn't want to hype it up too much, but I think that one might have been one of my favorites. Like, I actually laughed. That very rarely happens. I actually laughed at one point during that. The part I laughed was like, "Your dad just killed us," like, because he's imagining Eli just being, disoriented and like not forgetting what he was doing while they're. Yeah, some people were saying, okay, here's the problem. I think I've only gone through Half-Life 2 all the way once, maybe twice. So people were saying like I might have missed some stuff in the lab. It wasn't triggering. When I was like looking at that board, nothing was happening. Like Eli wasn't saying anything, so I just kind of went with that. But yeah, there were other bugs. Some of them, we got it out partially. Yeah, Valve added this thing that when you like walk on the lab floor, it sounds like a rubber impact sound instead of just like tile. And we edited out most of those, but anyway, I'm hoping the future ones don't require that much modification at all. The big modification I wanted was the gravity gun. I wanted the idea of it just blowing them back. So. Yeah, I definitely could have said more there. It's just that the episode moved along, so I just worked it in the best I could. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So, did you have any time to watch any Halloween-themed films or shows you want to recommend, or was it all work for you this month? It was mostly work. I watched a little bit towards the beginning. I watched a couple after. There's nothing super great. I watched the movie Old, which was okay. And I watched Escape Room from 2019. This is. I thought, what? Haven't I seen that? No, I haven't, because there was a movie named Escape Room, and there were two movies named Escape Room in 2017. Then there was a new one in 2019 named Escape Room, and they're all kind of the same movie. It's just these people go to an escape room. Uh-oh, it's sinister. It's gonna kill people. I wasn't sure like what scary movie to really watch this year. I guess there's a couple. Yeah, I never finished The Witch. I should finish that. Are there any, let's see. Oh, you keep that effect on the gravity gun? Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to use the gravity gun, but no, that's in there permanent now. It's going to have that kick every time. We'll see how that affects the game. I haven't even thought this through. I just wanted it. So, yeah, but it was just okay. It wasn't, neither one of those were horrendous. They're just, yeah, people have scary movies. I've probably seen a lot of scary movies is the problem. So, uh, yeah, I haven't seen too much. Let's see what. Trying to think if I got this watched it. Oh yeah, like yeah, some of this I watched like this week basically, rather, because yeah, well I managed to watch a movie on Halloween even though I was pretty tired by then, but yeah, I skipped big chunks of it. It was a show called Night Flyers. I think it was based off a George R. R. Martin novel or something, but I would describe it as sort of like a little bit like Event Horizon, but like more build up and story. But you know, I've noticed a lot of TV shows. There's a lot of filler, and it's not filler I care about. It's just characters just saying a lot of nothing, in my opinion, and not like and not in an amusing or funny way. Just so that's when I say I skip stuff. I mean, like, okay, these characters are just going to talk about their relationship and they're not sure how they feel about it. I just, like on the computer, I just skip ahead, like, you know, a couple minutes. Okay, new scene. Now they're talking about how they're going to survive. Okay, let's watch this part, you know. So, again, I've completely spoiled myself for like a lot of video watching. Okay, yeah, so next question. Let's see. Yeah, I'll get to more live questions at the end. I'll try and move on faster. Any luck in figuring out what's wrong with your food reactions? No, not really, but I'm trying. I wasn't always able to, because it requires more cooking, which takes more time. I wasn't always able to stick with it, but I've had relatively good luck so far eating, was it chicken, sweet potatoes, zucchini, mushroom, carrots. Those tend to not mess me up too much, and it's a very slow process figuring out if other things mess me up, and avoiding almost all oil, except I have olive oil. That one seems to be okay. Yeah, avoiding basically all grains tend to mess me up. I don't know what's wrong with me, so, but that so far that diet, if I can stick to it, it's going relatively okay. It just gets kind of old. I was craving sweets really badly yesterday, even some today. I was even toying with the idea of like, I've been off sweets. Yeah, again, I'm someone who tends to quit and come back multiple times. I quit for the crunch because I was really freaking out like a week before. I think it was like the Sunday before Halloween, so I guess that would have been like what, the 24th or something, that I wasn't gonna get in time. And it was like the fear was almost like paralyzing me from getting more work done. Whereas I needed to basically treat myself like a machine in order to get all of that done. So I forced myself to quit from that because I knew there would be no other way. So I've been off since then. And I've actually been doing this sort of mental game where I'm thinking of Path of Exile, where the game is a pretty linear experience, the main campaign. So I was thinking, okay, well, if each day I'm off sweets is a level, then like where would I be in the game? So today I would be at the Act 1 boss right about now. So at Mervale, like I'd be level 13. So I don't know if I'm gonna make it to Act 2 or not, but that's sort of a game I've done when I've like trying to quit. Like each day represents a level in the game. So where am I at in the game? Well, last time I did this, I made it to level 72. So for how long I was off sugar. Let's see. Well, somebody's asking about how Freeman's going to feel towards Bream. I have no idea. I mean, again, I don't want to say everything I'm going to do, but I just saw the question there. I'm holding Val. I'm holding Half-Life's feet to the fire in that if there was no mention of the character whatsoever in Half-Life 1, then I'm not assuming I know anything. Like, so I mean, Eli, yeah, they're saying it's that scientist model, but I think even then that was voiced by the actor who did Kleiner or something. And they would like, maybe not that particular model, but I think a whole ton of the scientists would be randomized. So it's like Eli was a character the same way Barney was a character in Half-Life 1, where he's all the security guards. And he's never actually named Barney except in the files. So it's like, you didn't really. And the thing is, that gets me off the hook. Well, I guess it doesn't matter now because Valve's probably not going to continue it, but for having all these references I should know about, it's like, well, if I don't know this, then no, I'm just going by what I experienced at Half-Life 1. So for Breen, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on how it goes with Half-Life 2, how he feels about it. He's not really going to have a reference for this. He's not going to know him. So, yeah, Kleiner was mentioned in the manual for Half-Life 1, so fine. They at least mentioned him by name and gave a little bit of backstory, so that counts, you know. But yeah, no, I'm not going to pretend like all these characters that like, oh, remember me? Remember me? I mean, it's like, because I mean, no, I don't. So, okay. You mentioned your attachment to temperate forest. You grew up within Virginia. How do you feel about tropical forest? That could be pretty cool too. I mean, I like lots of movies and pictures of jungle sort of thing. I don't know how well I personally could hack it just because of the heat. I tend to be more of a lightweight with heat tolerance, and tends to be pretty hot in the jungle. But no, I think it looks great. I think it would satisfy my sort of nature urge. Like in the places I live, I tend to want some sort of forest. Or yeah, the tropical forest to be fine too. In fact, I mean, I've seen plenty of photos and videos where it just looks, I mean, just utterly fantastic, you know? Especially when you get to like those areas where like it's so thick, but you have like tall trees and it's kind of blocking, the canopy's kind of blocking out the sun, and you have like the little god rays coming in. There's like maybe some mist in the bottom. Like that stuff looks amazing, so. Yeah, I just like having some vegetation. I can't explain why. I wasn't even always this adamant about it. It's just something just sort of snapped in my brain, like maybe 10 or 12 years back. That I just want this now. So, they're saying in Game Legend they like how I go beyond the game itself and talk about other things. Any chance going back to this approach? Yeah, it's not. I want to say in almost all of the game dungeons, maybe a few. It's not. I don't plan for that. It's just that when I'm going through the game and think of what to write, it's just the thought enters my head. So I thought, okay, what? Okay, and so I just start thinking about that and make that part of the script. So yeah, for sure. And that's actually something that's more likely to happen the less rushed I am. So this will hopefully be a good change. It just depends what occurs to me. I mean, like the Seinfeld. I mean, that was more into the game, like the Seinfeld scene in Martian Gothic. Yeah. When I say someone else is going to be doing the editing, I mean, I'm still gonna. In most of the game dungeons, there's going to be like some scenes I'm going to be much pickier about than others. That's one I would want to make sure that was almost exactly like that. Because I was thinking, you know what, this is more work. It's going to take more time to do all this editing, but I really want this scene in the Martian Gothic episode. In fact, I actually had to tone it down a little bit because the clip I was going to show, I was thinking, it's not. But the footage I want to show here, YouTube and maybe some viewers might misinterpret as pornographic. So I'm thinking, I better not cut it a little sooner before the camera scrolls up some more. Like it's not pornographic, but I could see this getting it flagged somehow, and then like, no, it's not porn. It's just this amorphous blob of flesh, you know. So it's. But yeah, so if there's any like really good scenes in Game Dungeon, I don't think that'll change at all, even under a new editor, because I will remain picky for that part. But for like some of the in between shots, that could be that's gonna change. It's gonna be different, you know. So it's just inevitable because a different person is gonna have their eyes on it. So. Yeah, not pornography, more of the realm of Slanesh, or that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, because there wasn't anything I was going to show that you could like literally call nudity in the sense that it's okay, this is clearly obscene and nude. It's like no, we're in. So it's too abstract what's happening here. For that. So yeah, there was no genitalia or anything like that show, but I still thought this could get misinterpreted. So, let's see. Where does Still Life 2 rank in your priority list for Game Dungeon? It's not super high, but it should go up if I have more editing help. So yeah, it's one that's not. It's probably not going to be the most fun episode for me to do, but yeah, I'll get to that at some point. Yeah, I mean, just the most fun of Game Dungeon for me is like going in, thinking about this, writing it out, making it happen. It's all the like little details that have to be done right. That's what drags me down, and a lot of those, like especially something like volume balancing, I wouldn't say that's objective, but it can sometimes be pseudo objective where someone else is going to do just as good a job as I or better than I would. So like there's less of a personal touch that or it really benefits from me. So the less of that I have to do, even if I'm making less money on it, that keeps my morale up, which makes me want to make more and hopefully gets more videos out that or of similar, same ballpark quality, I hope. Oh yeah, there might be an extra video coming this month. I might even start on this before Game Dungeon, just because this was one where I wasn't planning to edit this anyway. It's going to be different, but I would compare this to like sort of like the Star Trek video I did. There wasn't much in that video that it needed to be me editing it or my personal touch really mattered that much. So I had another sort of kind of, what's the word, sort of thinking out loud discussion, like the idea for a video that some people might find interesting, that I was going to hand to another editor anyway. So I might start with that because I think the odds of that going well are way higher, where I'm going to have to force myself to be a little less picky on Game Dungeon. Okay. Did you like Ad Astra? Yeah, I had a clip from that Martian Gothic. It was okay. I mean, it's I don't know. It's like a movie I didn't have like really strong opinions about. It's like in some ways it's realistic, in other ways it's very much not. But and it was a little bit depressing, but I like the sort of sci-fi elements of it. I just thought it was a great fit for showing a bunch of astronauts with guns and having shootouts. I mean, they try to make it make sense within the context of the movie, but I'm just thinking, I guess I have, the thing with Ad Astra is that it's sort of wrestling between two concepts that I don't think would quite make it. Where you have Earth kind of like maybe dying slowly or depleting its resources and everything, but you also have a more robust space activity than we've ever had in history. And you can maybe have a little bit of that, but I feel like it wouldn't extend to the extent that they showed it. Like, I don't think you would have like warring factions on the moon the same time, like from different bases and everything, and have like a constant connection to Earth. And I don't know, it's just like some stuff doesn't add up in my brain. Like with a lot of especially the later ones, like the Fallout games, it always makes my brain flare up that you wouldn't have this much going on without a more reliable source of clean water. Like because it just, there would be just too much death. There wouldn't be enough like roaming mutants and communities and stuff like that. They're just because my brain is saying if food and water is this sparse, then then all you have is just like maybe a couple nomads, or if it's just happened, then maybe you could have like a couple societies that are like on the brink of death. But like with something like Fallout 3 or something, where it's been going on a real long time, then it's just like, you wouldn't really have that. I mean, but it's, my brain tends to, like light up when I see situations that this doesn't feel very possible, you know? I kind of talked about this some in the Trackmania episode, where you could absolutely have roaming bands like in Mad Max and stuff, but it would be a really small sliver of time that would be sustainable without having some more societal stability. You know, that you can only keep going, you only keep that going on for so long. Or you have it kind of a no man's land situation in one part of the region, but in another part, then you have something resembling a functioning society, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, Ad Astra, it's like if you're hungry for more science fiction, which I tend to be, I mean, I don't regret watching it. It's just, yeah, it kind of makes, it kind of gave me a similar vibe as Interstellar, which, I mean, that was another one that's just like, it's, there's some neat stuff in it, but it's not like the best movie ever for me. Like, I've seen better movies. So. Let's see. Oh, Ubisoft released a patch to make Might Magic 10 Legacy playable again. All it took was 4 months of nagging them on official forums, various social media. Okay, well, maybe that gives some hope for some of their online-only games, like The Crew or The Division, or they have some others. But that's great that it happened. In my eyes, it shouldn't even be legal for them to do that. Like to just take off the game that you paid for and no recourse whatsoever. Like, or it would have to be like extenuating circumstances, like where we housed, like the place we housed all the code was hit by a meteor. Okay, maybe then you could apply for, what's the word I want? Not a referendum. Well, it's just some sort of forgiveness from it, legal forgiveness, so they're not on the hook. Again, you know, like if Phantasmagoria 2 had, well, they had a warehouse fire where they lost a lot of the original content. If it was a situation like that, okay, you know. I'm not trying to like penalize companies unreasonably, but again, glad that it happened. So maybe that gives some hope for Ubisoft in general, but shouldn't even have to ask for this. Like that should have been a done deal when you gave them your money, you know? I mean, that you were sold a perpetual license. So, well, Might Magic, although this says Might Magic 10, wasn't that always kind of, yeah, you see, this is where it's, okay, I might be mixing things up. I was thinking this was like an online-only game. It could have been just how they were, here, now I want to check Moby Games. I didn't, if that was already released like on a disc and you never, and there was either a crack for it or it just ran off. Wait, what's the game? Might and Magic. Okay, it's not showing up on Moby Games for some reason. I don't know why. Well, I mean, if it was never at risk and it was only that version being distributed on their platform, I still think they should be liable for it, but that's less something that like bothers me on a deep level because, okay, fine. Well, then you have to just jump through some more hoops to acquire a working copy in order to run it, you know? So, I mean, it's, but that's why I really try to focus on the stuff where, no, once that goes down, no one is playing it again. Like, absolutely. Whereas, if it's just the people who bought it on that platform, yeah, it kind of still is more of a fraud situation in my eyes, but it's less of a tragedy for in terms of like what everyone is losing then, if you see what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned in the games as a service video, the consumer rights angle of all this stuff, that's just, I think that's the best way to actually get change going on this, but that's the secondary part for me. The primary is to, is just, hey, a great game was made or a game that has great elements to it. Let's not utterly destroy that in all its forms, you know? Because that's the part that it just bugs me. Like internally, I don't think that's ever going to change. So I'm kind of seeing the consumer rights element as like a means to an end. So if people are getting screwed, but the game is still playable, I'm not happy about that. But that doesn't put me on the warpath the same way. Just like, no, let's just destroy this for everyone, for the developers, for the people who bought it, for the people in the future who are interested in this. No, let's just destroy everything. Let's remove this from history as best, as thoroughly as we can. That just bothers me on a much deeper level. So hopefully you get what I'm saying there. I can't take on every consumer rights issue going on in video games. That would be everything. That would be the whole channel. What's your take on the Facebook metaverse? I didn't even get a chance to like look at it until after the Halloween video was done. I'd say my take is probably what most people are thinking. It strikes me as kind of delusional and not reading the market very well or making great predictions, in my opinion. For people who don't know, the Facebook metaverse, it sounds like they're trying to create sort of their own private internet where like VR is like a big focus of it and social media. It sounds like it sounds a lot like, is it clipping? The chat is clipping the text. I'm going to try and fix that. Let's see. Wait, no, it's not. Okay, I'm tripping. Okay. It sounds like, yeah, if you've seen the movie Ready Player One, it sounds like they want to create the Oasis, which, I mean, is a interesting idea, but I mean, there's so many problems with this, the way they're going about it. Like, I'm sure there's videos devoted towards it, but I mean, God, like I don't even know where to. There's so many problems with this. I don't even know where to start. Okay, one, VR. Okay, let's focus on VR for a second. I'm totally on board the VR train, like wanting to experience other worlds, and I was gifted earlier the development kit for both the DK1 and DK2 to mess around with VR, which was by Oculus, and the way Facebook treated me as someone who got this for free left such a bad impression on me that I never want to have to do anything with them again. I'm basically boycotting them, not because I think it'll do anything, but because like I've seen how they treat people. I think I've mentioned this before, but they've ended support for the developer kits. That's fine. I understand that. You know, they don't want to support that forever. The thing is, the new drivers work on those. So you can still run a lot of programs on that. However, they put that behind software. You can't just download the drivers and install it and do stuff like almost every piece of hardware. Instead, they put that behind this special client software that you have to jump through all these hoops to get working, which again, they don't support. So they're saying, so this product still works, but they're putting it behind this wall and then shrugging their hands saying, well, we don't support you they don't support you trying to hop over this wall, which we're actively going to block you from getting the drivers we know work for it. So it's so anti-consumer, and it's the sort of thing I think should be illegal also for hardware to just intentionally lock out. They're basically bricking the sets, or attempting to. So I'm thinking, okay, if this is how they're treating the early adopters, in other words, the people who were there for them, like from the beginning, spending the money. I mean, I wasn't, because this was a hand-me-down for me, but somebody was who I got it from. Like, to me, that's a canary in the coal mine for how they're going to treat just regular consumers. So, like, that gives me just so little trust in the company for buying the hardware that they could easily brick this stuff at any time in the future. And I want to use this gear a long time. So they're already alienating what I would consider like the core audience for VR. I mean, obviously not everyone, but they're making wedges. And then I think they double back on like trying to make things like a private store and like trying to get exclusives, which I understand for profitability, but that shows a lack of looking at the big picture. Like if this was a market where they're getting like 100 million customers or something, or tens of millions easy, then okay, that might make more financial sense to do that, even though it still sucks for the consumer to have exclusives like that. But VR, people are not, the average person is not sold on VR. So this is already a small user base. So to divide that further, that shows like a lack of long-term thinking. They should have been trying to like win people over by having like the best product and experience. And you got to figure a lot of the VR crowd are going to be people who are going to like kind of want to run things their way or willing to tinker with things some more and not just lock them all out. Like, so, okay, so they've already alienated a big chunk of the VR people. Like, obviously, I mean, I think they're still like in the lead after PlayStation, probably because they have the most marketing and they were first to market, but there's a lot of competition actually, but even though they are still the biggest. So there's already, they've mishandled that quite a bit in my eyes. But then, okay, let's get to what they're trying to make. They're trying to make this like a social media thing with VR. See, there's two more problems with this. One is, I think, what was it, Palmer Luckey, former, I don't know if he's head of the department or he definitely had a high position in Oculus. Former worker at Oculus said that his analysis is most people aren't really on board with this. You could give them the VR headset for free and it still wouldn't get mass adoption. And I imagine he knows more about VR and the public than Mark Zuckerberg does. So that's another barrier you gotta hurdle over, which I'm not sure it will get hurdled over. I think maybe you could change people's minds if VR was just the most convenient thing. Like, let's say it's just a pair of glasses, and then even then, those glasses are not that heavy, and they sync up almost perfectly with the software as soon as you put them on, and the battery life is good. Like, we have all these technical barriers where I'm not even sure it's possible right now. If the VR experience was as easy as just putting on a pair of glasses, boom, you're good to go, it's a good experience by all metrics, then maybe you could get mass adoption. Maybe. I don't even know. And it was so cheap that it wasn't even a big ask. So, but I don't think the technology is there to hit every mark. You know, I'm pretty sure we could have impressive glasses that do VR, and maybe with a lot of money, you could have the software. It just goes like that, and it's good experience and wireless, and the latency isn't too bad. I think maybe with if you threw just an enormous amount of money, have that. But even then, the battery life and the weight, I don't know if the tech's really there for that. So it's such a huge undertaking. But okay, let's say we even, but yeah, without that, they're really trying to focus on the social element of this. I think if people are really social, they kind of want to actually do the real thing and go meet people, or go to parties or meet their friends. And this is going to be kind of a poor substitute for them. I mean, it's not that people don't do social things online, but I mean, there is some of that. But if I'm not sure if you're really going to get that adoption for people wanting to take the next step for like doing that in VR. It just feels like he's trying to force a market that's not really going to be there. Because sometimes things are just too early. I'm thinking like it's conceivable this could be too early, but it's again, there's some big technical barriers they're gonna have to get over. And another thing is like the whole, like with me with the VR crowd, Facebook in general, my understanding is not garnering a lot of trust at the moment, where people are just like, oh yeah, this is a great company. I'd love to do more stuff. Like, I think some of the concern about Facebook is maybe overblown in light of some other things, but the point, it doesn't matter. The point is they're not particularly popular with the public right now. So to have this, again, is essentially sort of a private internet network that you're tied into even more. That's going to stir up all those people to make them distrust the company even more. And then like what I watched their trailer for, or rather I skimmed it. Their trailer is extremely cringy. Like it's like I always like to mention the Windows 7 launch party by Microsoft. This is kind of worse than that, because at least the Windows 7 launch party, it's kind of in the so bad, it's kind of good and surreal, and it's much easier to make fun of. Whereas this has very high production value, but the writing is still bad, the acting's really bad, and it feels incredibly fake. And like that's just gonna double down on the psychological resistance this network. So they're just doing this all wrong. Like oh yeah. And I think part of them know it, because if you look at that video, the comments are all disabled and the like and dislike options are all disabled. Yeah, that's a really great sign that you're onto a hot product, you know? And yeah, that's another problem with the video, is that, okay, yeah, maybe here's a history question for people in marketing. Has there ever been a product where you're overselling and under-delivering that's gone on to do really well? Because they are absolutely overselling just almost everything in that video. Like they have the person just put on, I'm not even sure they even put on a device. I think they kind of went out of their way to like not show the headsets. And then, oh, look, now I'm at a concert as though I'm in the holodeck. And like, yeah, now I'm a they're showing a lot of stuff that, like if you're a millionaire and wanted to devote a lot of tech to this, it could maybe work under certain conditions. This will absolutely not be the public experience. And they're just overselling it. There's like no self-awareness as to how fake everything comes off of in that promotional video. So, hey, look, even though I'm highly against streaming exclusives because I think it's a death sentence for games, I will say one positive thing about Stadia. Their ad for it was pretty decent. Like I felt like they tried their best. They were like they weren't taking it too seriously. They were just trying to like sell you more on like the idea of having a fun time, and not like a lot of jokes thrown in there that Stadia made a good ad. I will say that. But Facebook's ad was just terrible. Like, even though the production quality is like very high as far as like, cinematography, lighting, the sets they're showing, all that stuff. But like the messaging was just horrendous. So, however, I mean, I get the feeling Zuckerberg is kind of living in his own reality. See, he's living in his own reality and he doesn't know it. See, that's the difference. But see, I want to live in my own realities with trying these games in VR and seeing it in stereoscopic and like, yes. But the difference is I know I'm in a fake reality and I'm just trying to enjoy the experience. I think Zuckerberg doesn't realize that. I mean, he wants Oasis, but he just really does. He's lacking so much common sense on this that I think it's just. I mean, he has deep pockets, so he can kind of keep it going as long as he wants, I imagine. I mean, unless shareholders were to rebel, but it's, yeah, it's so many, and again, I mean, the Oasis from Ready Player One sounded like a cool idea, but it's just taking so many missteps, if that's what you actually wants, that it's just not gonna, I don't think it's gonna go very far, but I could be wrong. I mean, it could be we'll put it like, no, here's what I'll say. I will be amazed if it ends up panning out the way they're presenting it. Yeah, like they were showing people playing basketball digitally with other people. You could maybe set up something like that with 2 VR spaces and like having, if you want to devote a lot of money to everyone involved with that, but the average person, give me a break. No one's gonna be playing basketball in VR. I mean, by playing basketball, I don't mean playing a sports game. I mean dribbling the ball or dribbling the virtual ball and make it. And running around the court. I mean, that's the sort of thing where if you threw a whole lot of technology at it, I could actually see that being possible. But we're not there yet, except for like a small number of people. But it just sounds like a big mess. So yeah, I could see this having some success. Like, let's say there's some game, like some social media game that people end up getting hooked on in the metaverse. And even then, they're probably using their phone or something to connect to it. And then there ends up being like some digital market with that. I could see that happening. So I could see Farmville 2.0 or 3.0 existing in the Facebook metaverse. But the way they're describing it, I would be willing to bet money that's not gonna happen on this. Like maybe there'll be like 1 or 2 videos of somebody showing them doing something like was in the video, but it's never gonna get mass adoption the way they're showing it. But yeah, I could see a VR Farmville successor taking off in there. But even then, is that really what you want to log in for? I'm not interested in that. I mean, although, and I'll just close this with I thought one of the thoughts I had was that this really makes me want something like the Dream software in my video, because I was thinking if they had really cool environments to show off, well, I would want to see that. But the thing is, I don't want this to be just temporary and then it's all dead later. I would want to like go in with the software and just be like, look at all these wonderful lands to plunder, where I'm just copying all the models and animations and textures from this so I can kind of store it locally and just, yeah, I think the GUI video, I said like I'm kind of an art raider. Yeah, so yeah, I would use the metaverse for that, to go in and just find the coolest looking worlds and just harvest everything I could from them to kind of recreate something similar locally, so that when it eventually goes down or something, I still have those worlds I could check out. So yeah, I was just imagining myself sort of like as a pirate just on these shores of this like undiscovered island, just like, like, the new things to plunder here. So I could see myself using it for that, but okay, I'll answer this since it's like connected. What do you think of the play to earn crypto games model? You mix that with the metaverse and you get Ready Player One. Uh, to me, it's like, yeah, that's a good question. I don't really have strong thoughts on that. To me, I'm kind of disconnected from that in two levels, because on one, I've never been interested in that sort of thing, like like a gaming marketplace. Like, even though I've played Path of Exile before, I almost did that as like at a minimum as a necessary evil. It's like, okay, I really want this item. Let me just trade enough to get this. Okay, good. Now I can go back to playing the game. I hated doing the trading with that. And I know some people are really into it, but it's just gaming commerce has never been my thing. I'd much rather head off into exotic lands and have adventures, that sort of thing, if I'm playing a game. So, um, so that's one level. I don't really care about what's going on. And the other level is I still don't understand the significance of NFTs. I almost want to say period, but also in gaming, where, I mean, like cryptocurrency, I understand the concept behind it, but NFTs, it's like, if you have an NFT on an image, but other people can, and that's the original, but you can make an exact copy of it where, yeah, it's not certified, like a wallpaper. Like, okay, well, what if I just have a digital copy of the wallpaper because I just want that as my background, but it's not the certified exact file that the person made? Like, why would I care at all? Okay, so that's why I don't really. I imagine there might be some application NFTs I'm just not getting. I'll totally concede on that. Like, but it's like, why? I mean, the whole point. A defining feature of digital stuff is that you can copy it. So I guess it's trying to introduce artificial scarcity. But okay, let's take that to gaming then. Well, in gaming, unless there's an exploit or a hack that lets you spoof items, that's kind of already there. Like, I mean, I have in Path of Exile, I have a legacy, was it Baron's helmet? The ones that has different stats for the zombies, that you can't get that from the game anymore. You can only trade that. So, I mean, I don't think people are able to spoof it. So that sort of already has value within the game economy. I mean, I guess the blockchain element gives it an extra layer of security, but I haven't been aware of like that being a huge problem in games, like since like the 90s. Like, I remember in Diablo 1, people could really spoof items, but there wasn't really an economy to that game. It was just mostly a single player with like multiplayer tacked on. So it's like, if they're doing a good job on the game already, I mean, with the coding, then you can already have your artificial scarcity within the game. And I don't know, I just don't get it. Like, again, cryptocurrency, I can see several application uses. But NFTs, I just never gotten it. Like, why would anyone value this? I mean, because it's digital. You can have an exact copy. It's just not I don't know, it doesn't have the timestamp of the original, I guess. That's the difference. Whereas, like, in real life, having a duplicate of something can take significant resources. You have to manufacture it, and then after a certain run, they may have like lost the means to make it again, or that sort of thing. Or it could have been a one-of-a-kind thing that wasn't easily produced, like a painting. Whereas, I mean, if it's digital, no, that's kind of a defining trait. So, I mean, they're trying to. I guess the thing is, games, if they want artificial scarcity, they have it already in a lot of MMOs. I mean, there's plenty of items out there that, like, you can't get them again. You kind of missed your window. And I mean, if they want to trade, if the game wants you to be able to trade them, the code can let you. I mean, I could sell my, yeah, what's the name of the, I want to get the name right. Path of Exile Baron. Yeah, okay, it's just called the Baron. It's a helmet or a hat in Path of Exile that gives your zombies special properties. You know, it's a desirable item within the game, but it's all artificial. You know, if there was ever like a emulator for Path of Exile, you could make as many of those as you wanted or change any stats you wanted. So I don't get it. I just don't get it with, I mean, if I was going to be cynical, I would say that this is just some buzzword marketing that companies are hopping on to try and make themselves sound fresh, even though it doesn't really make any sense. But there could be I'm the first to admit there could be an element of this I'm missing. I have never understood, I haven't heard of a scenario yet where NFTs make a lot of sense to me, or any sense, really. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I guess more security to ensure that your artificial scarcity remains scarce. But yeah, so games involving real money aren't my thing anyway. Game commerce isn't really my thing, and I don't really get NFTs. So I'm the last person who should like weigh in on this, but it doesn't make much sense to me, and I hope they don't ruin games I would like otherwise with this stuff. If they stick to Farmville type games, then I can kind of ignore this as long as possible. So, whereas if they're trying to like squeeze this into like some great RPG game, but then they load it up with this crap, then it becomes my problem, you know. So I hope this mania sort of dies out with that, but I don't know. Okay, more questions. The metaverse one took a while. I have not seen Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Okay, so it's a recommendation there. Ross, do you have any advice on finding a good full-time job? Jeez, I can't seem to figure out what I'm willing to do for money. Almost everything I try is awful. Well, okay, maybe not, but I will say working hell jobs, I mean, maybe this hasn't done this for you yet, but for me, it can give you focus on what you'd rather be doing. Well, if you worked an awful job and you still just had no motivation to do something else, I guess one thing you might want to try is, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of resources online now, is just look online for stuff like what different kinds of careers, or like help me figure out what kind of job I would want. Just browse through different options, like maybe, and you can read descriptions of different things and just sort of imagine yourself in different positions and like see if you would like any of these. And if you don't, just keep looking, because it could be that you're maybe not thinking of everything that's out there. You know, I mean, as for getting the job, I don't know if I have great advice on that, but sure there's a lot of research. I mean, the whole economy is shifting. So, I mean, I was thinking, again, I have a lot of abstract thoughts. I was thinking with my situation, giving advice for getting a job, I was thinking how when I did some of the streams and platforming, sometimes I get hit like in a platformer and it knocks me back down this gap, and I was way up, and I'm basically falling to my death, but then bam, just by dumb luck, I land on some other moving platform below it. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't fall to my death into the abyss. I kind of feel like that's my career. So that's like, it's like, but by dumb luck, I didn't just fall into the abyss. So that's great. So that's not really great advice though. So, but yeah, the best advice I would give is just learn about all the kinds of different jobs and careers there are. There could be weird stuff you hadn't heard of that sounds appealing, you know? Like I was thinking, if I never got into computers or didn't want to work in them or couldn't do videos. Like I don't like I might have been okay with like going down the route of being like an electrician. Like I don't know. I kind of like wiring things and hooking things up, and that's not. I don't know. I just sort of like the. I guess it's almost aesthetic of power stations and that sort of thing, and that's a practical thing. So, in another reality, I could see myself being an electrician. So I don't know. Just yeah, just look at all. I'm sure there's stuff online where just all kinds of different careers. You know, there might be some of medicine, industry, financial stuff, creative things. So there might be stuff you're not aware of, and just figure out like which of these sound good, which of these you can maybe live with, and then while you're working a hell job, it might make you think about doing something else more and more. So, uh, yeah. So just yeah, look at all your options. Maybe something will jump out at you. Okay, let's see. Do any of the Shock games have the potential to have a game dungeon done on them? Any thoughts on the long in development System Shock remake? I can maybe do them. I just have to. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's because I figure a lot has been said already. Like, I actually still need to play the original System Shock. I've only played a little bit. The interface kind of threw me off, and since they're doing a full remake, I might just jump straight for the remake once it's done. Like, I've played System Shock 2, which is great. It's one of my favorite games. The what? Played Bioshock, and I haven't played Bioshock 2. I played some of Bioshock Infinite, then just sort of gave up on it and watched a playthrough of the rest of it. Though that I admit that's actually Bioshock Infinite's up there for games I would want to experience in VR. That might actually make me play more of it because that has some pretty fantastic environments in it. And then I don't know what happened with all the DLC for Bioshock Infinite. Like they did more with that, so. Uh, yeah, I could. What? That's one of those games where I feel like the. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could do Bioshock, but a lot of Bioshock could be dunking at how. I don't know. I kind of feel like Bioshock is inferior to System Shock 2 in almost every way except graphics. So, I mean, I guess I could talk about some of that, but these games, they're so mainstream, it's making me think that, it's making me think I really need, people are talking about other things. I'd have to think about, like, where does my mind go when I think about these to kind of make it worthwhile to do a game dungeon on it. Again, I don't want to just repeat something that everybody has already said, so. Actually, I've heard there's a mod for Half-Life Alyx to see a lot of Rapture from Bioshock in VR, so I'll probably want to try that out eventually. But yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of wasted potential in Bioshock, and well, I don't know. It's maybe I'll do a game of on eventually, but it's not top of the list. I kind of gravitate towards ones where I'm almost having to stop myself because I have so many things to say about it. Because I figure that those naturally lend themselves to be episodes. What are some of your favorite and least favorite Game Dungeons episodes to make? I don't even want to. I don't know. It's all kind of a blur now. And any that are under time pressure are not great ones, but it's just kind of a blur. Because even that's something that might change actually with more help. Because even games that where I liked them or I liked writing it, by the time I was done, I was just kind of sick of the whole process because there's so much tedious work involved with the making them that like I'm way past the fun part for me, and then I'd be ready to move on to the next episode, but nope, have another week of editing, so it's like, okay, just little things to take care of. Let's see. Oh yeah, I just want to mention. Yeah, this is something that maybe should have been in announcements. If you're, I don't know if I really want to give much of a big percentage for this because this is such a small portion time wise of the total videos compared to the other editing. But if somebody wanted to help me with like miscellaneous, like kind of Photoshop work, let me know. There's actually one I might be interested, or maybe I could give like a fixed payment for some of that, or I don't know. You can contact me about that because sometimes it'd be nice if I'd be able to delegate that. Also, there's sort of a side project I've been doing where I've been kind of slowly going through DeviantArt and just saving all these wallpapers I like, but the resolution on them is sometimes a little low. So my plan is to go through them, like crop them down to just the good. Sometimes they have like borders that I don't really need. Crop them down to just the image. And sometimes they have like big logos on them that I kind of want to use AI. What's the word I want? Well, modern graphics programs have like sort of AI fill-in options where it looks at the painting and then takes its best guess to fill those in. And it can often do a decent job. So fill in like giant logos that look kind of ugly. And then once that's done, save it and then just do upscaling to something like 4K. And so then once that's all done, I'm gonna have like hundreds of wallpapers that I'll just hit I'll just hit a hotkey whenever I want to change it and something new. So if you wanted to assist with sort of graphics grunt work like that, I'd be happy for the help. But I don't know if I'd really want to pay that much for that sort of thing. It's something I was planning to do on my own, but I'll make public all the artists that this is coming from. If people are interested. I have like this big spreadsheet list. Please give examples for it. Yeah, I might even show the spreadsheet in just a future video. I don't know if I'm. Well, here maybe I could show it right now. Maybe I'll do that at the end, because it can be kind of a wreck sometimes trying to share the windows. Okay. Let's see. I should check out Driver San Francisco. I might do it eventually. I'm not. A lot of driving games. It's like I'm most interested in the environment, and San Francisco isn't like my favorite spot to. Yeah, like with Watch Dogs. Like I enjoyed the first one a lot, which more than I thought. Which takes place in Chicago. I like sort of the mood it has, and I just wasn't that interested in the second one. But I'm definitely interested in the third one, Legion, because that one takes place in London. So it's like, I don't know, some cities I just like the atmosphere better. Okay, somebody's saying without spoilers, what is my opinion on Society, on the movie Society? It's definitely like a slow burn movie, but it has like a big payoff. You know, so I think I've only seen it once. It just came to mind for that clip might work for what I was trying to use it for. Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it. I just kind of went straight to get the clip. But yeah, it's like the definition of like a slow burn movie with a big payoff. Like, it's not horror, but I'm thinking of like the movie Heat. That has some action at the beginning, but that's also kind of a slow burn movie. But wow, does the climax of that movie pay off? So no, I can appreciate movies like that. Where and how do you get news, both for game announcements and the world in general? It can be from various places. Sometimes I'll like look up different topics. A lot of my news can be kind of through osmosis, almost from looking up something else and then I'll see a headline or something. For games, I kind of go from check out websites PC Gamer, PC Games N, and Rock Paper Shotgun. Though I'm kind of behind on some of them, especially PC Games N. At one point, they had the genius idea to switch to that infinite scrolling thing, so I'm months behind on checking on them. So it's kind of a pain if you want to check old news. They just make it almost impossible unless you know the exact article. I feel like it's a terrible system. For for general news, sometimes I hear different topics, different YouTube videos. One tech site I get news from is slash.org, and sometimes they cover different topics that I'll kind of look into things. See, sometimes sometimes I'll find out about different YouTubers or news sources where they, one topic I want to hear a bunch about, so I'll hear it from like a bunch of different perspectives, but then I'm not really that interested in the rest of their videos. Like for gaming news, I was kind of enjoying everybody dogpiling on Fallout 76. And like through that, there was like a YouTuber, what was his name? It's a Gundam. And some of his videos I thought were hilarious. Others was stuff I just didn't care about at all. Like he was talking about all these streamers. I was thinking, well, whatever. This is just internet drama stuff. But he's like a big Star Wars fan, or big former Star Wars fan, and like a big former Bethesda fan. So to hear him tear apart like what the games or movies industry is doing to that, some of it was just so bitter and honest and kind of funny that those. But it's like a bunch of his other videos. It's like, well, okay, I don't really care about what he's talking about here. So it can be a lot of things like that, where some topics, like that, a YouTuber might only have like one video on there, but they just nailed it for that one. So yeah, I haven't checked him in months actually, but yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, it's almost, it's like a next level of criticism, because this isn't just someone who like is just kind of joining in on the dogpiling. This is somebody who really wanted something good, and this is what they're getting. So you can it's like a next level of bitterness about it. So that was quite entertaining. And some of his videos are really funny too. But I don't have a lot of great sources. Like the news I tend to be interested in, like, and even gaming news, unless there's like something that's kind of fun to hear about. Like I'm mostly interested in PC gaming news because I don't have the other platforms to be running it on. So why, get myself worked up over a game I can't play? What was it? Yeah, for general news, like again, like foreign affairs stuff, that's just not really a big interest of mine. I'm interested in economic news. I'm interested in energy related news, some technology news, environmental news. So that honestly could get pretty depressing. Yeah. Okay. This is another example of like the best source I found for environmental news was this site called ecowatch.com. But again, they have that infinite scrolling crap. So if you want to check news from a month ago, it's awful. I mean, like you have to just kind of literally scroll down forever. And I haven't checked in a long time, so it could have changed some, but there was such a variety and like well-sourced, at the time I saw it, well-sourced articles on all these environmental disasters that are going on in like different parts of the world and of different kinds. Like it just got overwhelming. Like I was thinking, geez. And then to have that all buried in this really problematic formatting for the site, it's like, I don't know. But yeah, that was the best one I found for environmental news. Like if you wanted to find like what environmental disaster is going on, I would be amazed if they hadn't covered it. Like even a lot of smaller stories. So I'm interested in the sort of news where it can kind of give you a picture of where you think, like kind of make predictions of where you think the globe is going, that sort of thing. But I mean, not that stuff like foreign affairs isn't part of that, but it's less, I don't know, my brain doesn't take to that the way something like some economic news can go, or trends, that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't have a lot of great sources. It varies so much depending on the topic. Because again, I feel pretty confident recommending that one for environmental stuff, but like on economic stuff, there was like this one a lot of this is opinion too. There was one YouTube channel I look at every now and then. It's called, was it Stansbury Research? But even then, you get a pretty wide variety, because some people, I feel like these people really sound like they know what they're talking about. Others just sound like kooks. I mean, just or straight up grifters. Or like, so it's like you got to kind of filter things through, like follow their own logic. Okay, is what they're saying, does this fly in the face of other facts that you know about? If it does, do they have an explanation for that, or are they just speaking in generalities? So I feel like it's harder to interpret the news than ever. You really have to have like some background in it. I can follow logic though. So even if I know it's nothing on a topic, yeah, one of the things that makes me incredibly distrustful of a news source or a particular person, you know, yeah, it's Stansbury Research. They have just something. They have a lot of different people on there, and some stuff just makes no. And they'll have conflicting opinions and stuff like that. But that's just economic stuff. But one thing, yeah, it's too bad. One thing is, okay, so they're saying something and you see an obvious problem with it. And if that problem never gets brought up, that makes me more suspicious. Or if it does get brought up and their answer is very unsatisfactory, like they haven't thought this through and they're just trying to sweep it under the rug, that makes me distrust the source, at least on that topic, significantly. So, this sort of came up, not to get too political, but I remember, like, I think last year people were asking, like, my thoughts on, like, what was it, universal basic income. And, like, I saw a lot of potential of it, but the main problem I saw with it was that I don't see what would protect this from just over time, just eventually all going to, like, landlords or cost of living stuff, where it just gets eaten up by inflation. And I think, like at the time, was it Andrew Yang? He got asked like point blank about that problem. Like, well, aren't you concerned? Like, is there a concern that, you know, people like might lose this purchasing power, so it ends up getting kind of neutralized? And he really did not address it. He just kind of said, well, yeah, but yeah, for rent. I think like his answer was something like, well, yeah, but if you consider if people have that much more money in their pocket, then maybe more people will opt towards buying a house rather than renting. It's like, well, wait, no, that doesn't address the core of the problem, because the housing prices would go up also proportionally over time. And so so like the short term, that might be a workable answer, but that doesn't address the core. You need something else to actually address the fundamental core mechanic of that. So that kind of made me, like, unless that got answered, that kind of made me think, this isn't really a great solution. So I can follow, so logic, even if I don't know a lot about the situation or other information, I can follow the logic of someone and see if that's consistent. If it is consistent, that makes me kind of trust that opinion more. And then also I'll look at like counter arguments. Okay, well, what does the opposition say to that? And then if they bring up all these points I was unaware of, and then the person doesn't have a good defense of that, well, that weakens it. But then if the opposition is saying just kind of really bombastic stuff and not backing it up, well, that makes me trust the original source more. So it's news is not simple. I don't really have like easy sources for it. So okay, I should keep moving on. Okay, I'm not as behind as I thought I was, so that's good. I thought for a second I've been doing this 2.5 hours, but it's only 1.5. What's the last time you laughed so hard your midsection cramped up? You know, I think I forgot. Okay, there's one that definitely happened, and I think it happened again, but I forgot now. But the one that definitely happened was, there was this video a while back. There's a surveillance camera where this guy ran into a barber shop with this pit bull chasing him, and then he just kind of ran around and ran out of the way, and the pit bull just started kind of going for everybody, and it was just complete panic and chaos, and it just kept going on like that. This one guy was trying to, like, scare it off with like a hair dryer until it, and he managed to discourage it a little bit, and then it decided to go for him, and he ran off, and then this other guy was just trying to climb onto the counter, and then like as he's doing this, the dog just kind of jumps up and bites his leg as he's trying to get up there, and then he finally collapses and just goes down with like it had me laughing so hard. I'll try and post a link here. I'll make a note. I'll try and post a link for that. Uh, it and I want to say not even too long ago there was like I found out about this is something I plan to go through methodically at some point. There's a channel on Reddit I discovered like a month or two ago, Abrupt Chaos, where this is exactly my kind of thing where it's as it sounds, things are going normally and then a lot of chaos breaks out. Like, geez, I'm trying to think of there's one that gets repeated. There's a lot of wedding fires in that one. Those aren't the funniest ones, but where people are having a wedding and then they manage to set the ballroom on fire and everybody's screaming and running out. But there was definitely some quality videos in that channel. I have to check more of it. In fact, I kind of want to go through methodically and just save all the best ones. I have to figure out a good program for saving Reddit videos. But yeah, that for sure that's one that got me, the dog in the barber shop. Let's see. What else? Housing is the most intuitively expensive commodity in a lot of places. How will you try to lower housing costs if you have power? Wow. Well, if you had a lot of power, just codify it into law. Say that, like you're kind of entitled to certain things if you're like a citizen of the country, and then have it stem out from there. So, rather than like trying to like figure out like the absolute best solution, just like I'm trying to think, like, you're entitled to police protection in countries, or fire protection, because that's like in the law. So you would have to basically codify into law like you are entitled to housing that is, and then have like a few kind of vague things that are free of debilitating problems when you receive them or something like that. So yeah, they can't give you a house that's like overrun with like bed bugs or has structural damage that's going to collapse, or you could have like a list of things that doesn't qualify for the housing. Let's see, like the water's polluted, they're getting it, or it has running water, has electricity. I have like some bare bones thing. So yeah, but that then you could decide like, then there's a lot of ways you could actually make that housing happen, like whether it's better to kind of occupy more existing ones, or maybe there's a market to kind of make new ones that might be better in the long run or something. So the details could kind of be, there's a lot of flexibility, but if it's codified into law, then it's going to happen, or it needs to. Or if it's codified into law, there's a much higher probability of it happening, I guess. So yeah, that'll be like guaranteed to you. You can work out the details, like, because maybe like a family, because maybe not every individual of a family needs housing, but past a certain age, a person would be entitled to housing if they wanted to get to it. But maybe you could have some incentive for people to stay with families if they wanted to, that sort of thing. Again, the details would be something to work out, but I think that would be like the most effective way, is codified into law, things that are just, it's the law. You have to have halfway decent housing. But and even then, like say you're like a nightmare tenant where wherever you stay, you tend to wreck the place and make a what was previously usable housing no longer usable, because you're just partying too hard or something. Well, then there could be like then you could have like you could have additional restraints put on you that like what kind of housing is available for you, because then you might get something more like the projects where, yeah, okay, you've shown you're not responsible enough to have like a decent house for it. So, but you're still entitled to like clean water, not having a place that's infested with something, not a place that's unsafe. But, you're not going to get like the primary stuff. Whereas if you were like, let's say you had like a reputation of like volunteer work or something, or served in the military, or, did something to kind of give back to society, you'd probably get better picks of the housing, that sort of thing. But, I mean, you could still kind of have a private housing market if you wanted to, though. I'm not trying to limit this to housing, but I feel like we're overextended with a lot of stuff to really be promoting a lot of that. But it's just like the private housing would probably be a lot nicer, but you'd still have like a ground level. Okay. But I also see this as just totally unrealistic for how our government, that's way too radical a stance for our current government. So I don't see that happening. So it's like I said, a lot of my politics are fantasy and I know it. So, let's see. Did you, as an American, grow up with the Asterix and Obelix franchise? The library I was at had some of the books of them, so I would check those out sometime. So yeah, I saw some Asterix and Obelix. Yeah, I saw some of the stories from getting them at the library, like the comics of them. I never saw them animated or anything like that when I was growing up, but yeah, they're entertaining. How many game dungeons are you working on right now? Well, I guess it's just the partial one at the moment. So, how many would you say you're working on average? Everything's changing. Like it was, yeah. See, the way I did it for the Halloween stuff, the way I did it for maximum efficiency, because if I was doing absolutely everything, it wouldn't have mattered. But somebody was helping me, Spencer Cardillo, I think I have him in the credits. What he would do is I would go through the script and I'd read through it, but like sometimes I have bad takes or I want to do it again or my voice didn't come out so well. What he would do is I'd record that and I'd send over the raw takes to him, and he would trim it down to just his best guess of the good takes. I did some testing on this a while back, and I found that he read my mind the best. Like if I had 3 takes, which one would I pick? He had a pretty high ratio of picking the one I would pick. So I'd hand that to him, and then once he was done filtering that, he sent it back, and then I would go over that, do some audio cleanup, just kind of sometimes you make like 1 or 2 mistakes that I would go in and fix. So that was a bit of a time saver. So what I did was I went through the game, recorded the audio, or wrote the script, recorded the audio, and then as soon as I did that, I sent that to him, and then I went on to the next game to give him as much lead time as possible. So, I went through Terror Tracks and, recorded all the audio for that, or all the dialogue, wrote the script, and then I went to Gothos, wrote the script, recorded all the audio for that, then went to Martian Gothic, recorded all the audio for that, then I went back to editing Terror Tracks. So, and then so by the time so that way I was editing on that while he was working on editing the later episodes to try and maximize the time efficiency. So I had 3 going at once for that one. And I just kind of put the previous game dungeon that hopefully have this month. Hopefully, not promising anything at this, but like this. I can promise having the script done and having it voiced this month, but you're not going to see the difference if the episode's not out, because I had Freeman's Mind done in that respect last month. So, yeah, there was delays on both sides because there was kind of a delay. The sound got, who was it? I think it's William Smith, but he's wanting me to put William Reed now. He was it took him a while to make the extra sound effects for the episode. And so I just kept moving on to Halloween. And by the time he was done, or with the first pass of it, I was in the middle of the Halloween crunch. So I had no extra time to look it over. So I had to wait until I was done with Halloween. Then, like the day after, I looked it over and realized, okay, well, there's some stuff missing here. We could maybe change this. And then I sent it back to him. And he was able to fix that. And I got that back on, I think, Thursday. And I was hoping to get it out Thursday. But that day, I was actually taking care of some stuff related to my state permit in Poland. So I was going to these different offices and getting passport photos made and stuff. And I was just so drained by the end of the day that I just couldn't do it. So, or rather, I couldn't do it. I could have done it, but it would have felt like pure torture. So I said, okay, well, you know what? I'll just do it this Friday. And then on Friday, it took me the 4 hours just to finish off the audio. And then I had to add the credits in, line up the titles, and, make the thumbnail, that sort of thing. So, and then, of course, encode it and preview it, make sure it's all right. So there's always a couple hours extra work after I'm done, like once I think I'm done, just in case something goes wrong, or little things to fix. But yeah, it's still kind of a chaotic system. Do I prefer being able to shift between work and different projects? No, I actually kind of prefer being able to finish it off. However, that said, once I'm in the weeds so much with editing that I already know how the episode's gonna go. I've done all the major stuff, but there's still all these details to take care of. By then, I usually feel like moving on to another episode. It doesn't make sense to, but I kind of prefer it more serialized, but that might work out if I'm having more help. So, Ross, having any trouble running old Flash games you wanted to play since Flash's death? Not really. I mean, I had the Flash player. I mean, it just died as far as web browser support. But yeah, what workarounds have you needed to implement? I never really had much of a workaround. I mean, unless it connects to the internet, and then hopefully that group project that was going on took care of it. I mean, download the standalone Flash player. This wasn't it. I mean, yeah, I mean, Flash ending was kind of like a console support ending. It's, if you have the console, you can still run the games. Unless it has an online-only requirement, then it's a complete can of worms, and the software isn't really going to save you. It's somebody going in and changing the code that's going to save you. So I find it hard to enjoy vampires these days. Has popular media over time ever ruined tropes of monsters for you? No, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be interested in just something because it's that theme. I mean, there's plenty of zombie movies I haven't been that interested in. So, I mean, you just have to make a really good movie or a good theme. Like, I mean, with I had to, when I used clips from it in the latest Game Dungeons, I had to stop myself from watching more of the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula and Blade, because it's like, man, this was great. Like, I want to, so I stopped. But so if there was a new vampire movie on that caliber, maybe you might enjoy it, but I'm trying to think of what the last really good vampire movie was. I mean, I wouldn't say it was really good, but I enjoyed, for the most part. Was it Daywalkers? I think it was the one with Willem Dafoe in it. I forget the name of it. I remember that one being all right. I'm trying to think of what's the best vampire movie I've seen since then. The Strain was a TV series, and even that had plenty of stuff worth skipping, but the stuff that you don't want to skip was pretty great. Daybreakers. Okay, that was the name of it. Let's see. So I have not seen the movie One Cut of the Dead. I hadn't heard of that. So I mean, even zombie movies, there's The Walking Dead. It has that. Well, it's not really a movie. It's a TV show. That has plenty of stuff worth skipping in it. But the parts that are good are really good, I thought. or like I think like the last zombie movie I just loved every single second of it was like was it the Dawn of the Dead remake. And but that was back in that was like 20 years ago now. Wow. So what was it? Lahore was it Lahore? The Horde? The French I think it was French one. That one was I remember that being pretty good though. And there was another one. It was sort of like a mini series. Was it oh geez, I forgot the name of it. It was like a mini series. It took place in like a studio where like these reality TV shows people are stuck there, and it's just as brutal as the Dawn of the Dead remake. Oh, how did I forget the name of that? I'm sure I could figure it out if I saw it again. It was like three episodes or maybe 6 episodes or something, but it was that was pretty solid. So yeah, I think it's more just. I mean, for me, it just has to be a really good movie or show or something like that. So, let's see. Dead Set. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Happy Funshine. Yeah, Dead Set. I remember being pretty great. So, okay. But I mean, if it's a middling movie, then yeah, I could see getting tired of a certain theme. Okay, you said in Martian Gothic Game Dungeon that yeah, this is something I would have expanded on more if I had more time. I said Resident Evil 4's bottom portion got stupid. Can you please elaborate? Yeah, like okay, the first third of that game I thought was just awesome. Like by the bottom portion, you're coming onto this island, and I remember there are like multiple zombies with rocket launchers and machine guns. It's like, oh yeah, real scary. That this doesn't just feel like some action shooter now. I mean this is it's kind of like what I was complaining about with the Alone in the Dark movie. Like this isn't how you make a scary environment unless you really know what you're doing, and that didn't. It just it lost all the scariness of it. But I think like the real turning point for me was like as soon as you get to the castle, like your approach there. I remember there being like 3 or 4 catapults launching stuff at you. It's like, okay, yeah, this got way more arcadey now, and we're getting rid of the this just feels a lot more gamey and doesn't really have like the fear approach where they're like this mob is coming at you and you're not sure if you have enough ammo to keep them off, or there's like a big scary monster, that sort of thing. So I mean, I feel like that's Resident Evil's strength, the scary moments. Whereas this stuff just kind of felt more gamey and kind of dumb. So I just remember I've only played through it once, but I remember by the time you got to that island at the end, there were multiple zombies with rocket launchers, and at once, it's not like it's not sort of like the Nemesis where that's just like one attack he has, and like his whole presence is just a scary moment in general, like from 3 or the guy in 2. I forget what he's called, like Mr. X or something. So the Resident Evil has had bosses with a rocket launcher before, but there's sort of the culmination of like this is the deadliest thing in the game. So it's a little dumb in that too, but it still keeps the fear there. It's just like the fear was just all gone for me when it was doing that. So let's see. One Cut of the Dead is a Japanese zombie movie about a film crew making a zombie movie where they get attacked by real zombies. See, that sort of thing, it really depends because, like with the zombie movie, where it's what does it feel kind of stupid and like tongue in cheek, and it's like I don't know, or does it somehow make it fun? Does it somehow make it scary still? Or is it like genuinely funny? Because I can be pretty picky with comedy. So it depends. It's just like the premise isn't enough for me. I could see that premise being stupid also. So, and not being a great movie. Okay, somebody's asking, what are my thoughts on Fear then? because they had replica soldiers. Well, see, fear kind of kept the mood going, because like the fights feel really brutal in that, and like it feels like you're kind of surviving for your life. And the thing is, they're they're like replica mind controlled soldiers. So like the your expectations of what to expect for a scary situation are still intact. Like for zombies, I'm expecting them to be brainless and want to just devour me. So they're gonna. Sometimes they have fast ones or shamblers or that sort of thing. Okay, that kind of works. However, if they're I don't expect them to be thinking tactically, and if they are, then why do we even care that they're zombies? Then it's like we're like pulling the rug out from on your expectations in a way that's not very satisfying. Yeah, the zombie's strength for being scary is they can overwhelm you. You're thinking, oh God, I'm like here and there's hundreds of zombies after me, or they're just really dangerous up close, or they look scary because their flesh is decaying. So it's like you want to play to your strengths. With fear, like it was kind of like it was a blend of things that managed to click, where you have I guess you have like the spooky psionic or ghost moments, which weren't really my thing, but it kind of went okay with it. But you have like the tension of like a tactical shooter where like this team is out trying to kill you, and all the presentation of it is done in a way that feels really kind of tense and scary. So it's like a suspense that kind of leads into more of a horror or terror thing, which it blended together well. Like all the places you're at, it's dark, or like it's controlled lighting, and there's like this real kind of moody kind of atmosphere of music playing to kind of like raise the tension for it. So you don't have like this kind of like gung-ho hurrah feel you get from some military shooters. It's more like, no, they're out to kill you. You need to survive. And it's like, but you're trying to accomplish this mission, and there's weird things going on and you're not sure what's happening. And all that together kind of works well. Because you could take the levels, the enemies, and everything of fear, but change the atmosphere of them and like the music and make it just some military shooter. And wouldn't be that scary. It would just be kind of like that. But they made it all work. So even though all the enemies have guns and there's a lot of action, it's paced in the right way. There's the right atmosphere to it. There's the right kind of lighting. There's the right kind of mood to it with the music. So it does become a tense atmosphere. So yeah, I want to say that I'm sure there's movies like that where it becomes more of a survival situation. Oh yeah, someone's saying fear also had the bullet time. Well, okay, that may have biased my view because I tried to not use the bullet time because for two reasons. One, I felt like it kind of made it a little more cheesy. And two, I didn't like that filtering effect where they're kind of over sharpening things. And it's just like, no, let me I want to try and do this like just real time. And yeah, so I think I used the bullet time only for like over the top boss fights or something like that. So yeah, I felt like it raised the tension more. Yeah, and actually, I also thought that was something that made it felt a little dumber is like the akimbo pistols. It's like, okay, my understanding is tactical people are not using akimbo pistols. They want their accuracy and, not trying to like screw around with this. So that kind of took me out of it a little bit as opposed to having like an over-the-top action movie where I felt like fear, even though the game isn't this exactly, the more its strength was trying to treat this more like it's a real tactical situation you're going into, but other things are happening that make it kind of a little more mind-bending. So that's Yeah. Somebody's mentioned fear lets you roundhouse kick people in the midair as well. See, I never used the melee attacks for the game. I mean, for the single player, I just kind of went in trying to have this kind of like intense, like tactical combat experience, but scary things are happening while you're getting deeper into it. You know. So I guess I kind of played to what I thought was its strengths, but since that other stuff was optional, it wasn't a problem for me. So you don't have to use slow motion. You don't have to use melee combat. So, and the game's playable and the game balance, it's not enough that you just don't have to use it. The game balance is enough that you can still play through that game without those. So, okay. I may start picking the questions more. Thoughts on recent solar flares? I wasn't actually aware of them, though. I really need to get on. I think I'm going to buy a Blu-ray burner or an M-disc burner to put data on and just put my most valuable stuff on that. It's like a local backup, and maybe try to send some data where I don't really care if it gets leaked that much for some people who have offered to store stuff for me online. So this would be like a lot of abandonware games, maybe some music, stuff I can't really like legally distribute, but if I'm putting it on some random internet person server who's offered to store this for me. So I'm just hoping for it as a backup. If it gets leaked, I don't care. That's fine, but I'm not trusting it with like banking documents or something like that, but stuff I just don't want to see get destroyed. I might do that as another backup option. Do you think you'd be able to live out a reasonably good life in The Lone Survivor on a base like the one from Martian Gothic, but without the zombies? Assume that it's possible to get food and water. So basically assume things are going okay, but you're cut off. You're a lone survivor. Yeah, that's actually a thought experiment I had before with the movie. What was it? I think it's Passengers. As Chris Pratt and I don't remember her name. She's the actress from Hunger Games, I think. That movie is like sort of half sci-fi adventure, half romance movie. I just kind of skipped through the romantic parts and enjoyed the rest of it quite a bit. The general plot is they're on this sort of luxury, it's science fiction. They're on this sort of luxury cruiser where they're heading to a new planet to colonize it. But the only way they can do that is they're in stasis for like 100 years or something. And the plot is the main guy has come out of stasis. I want to say it's like 70 or 90 years too early. So he's kind of freaking out. But at the same time, he's on this like luxury ship. So it's, it's an interesting thought experiment, like what you would do in that sort of situation. I came to the conclusion, I think I could hold out relatively well if I had like a lot of entertainment. I mean, you say reasonably good life, that's where it becomes more of an abstract thing. I mean, obviously you miss out on a lot of things not having contact with other people. But, if I had just like an endless supply of like movies and games and things to read, it wouldn't be as satisfying a life and like sufficient space to exercise. I mean, yeah, you'd lose something, but I think I could hold out pretty well. I think my sanity, I think it inevitably probably deteriorate, but it'd probably hold up reasonably well. It would probably hold up better than the guy from Martian Gothic after 10 months, but he was exposed to more than I was, than I would be in this scenario. So, yeah, if I didn't have entertainment, it would, I don't know. It would be rough, I think. But I don't want to underestimate what it would do to my psyche over time, but I think I could hold out a long time because really there were times in the past when I was on my own and working different jobs where I was basically on my own for the vast majority of the time. And I don't think it's great to be that way, but like I kind of have more mental training to be able to handle that, I think. So I mean, I enjoy being able to have company of others, but at the same time, I also kind of prefer isolation to like people you can't stand being around or to drive you kind of crazy. So it's yeah, I don't know, but yeah, having things to keep your mind active that you're genuinely interested in help. I think makes all the difference. But it depends a lot on your personality too. Some people wouldn't be able to hack it well at all. They need human contact more than others. Like for me, it's like I can kind of swing either way on that with uh, you know, doing stuff where I'm around a lot of people versus kind of my own personal pursuits where I'm more isolated. But I mean, it depends on the people too, you know, and how much exposure. Like if you're just seeing them like a couple hours a day, then it's usually fine. If you're around them 24/7, kind of anybody can get on your nerves. But some people are going to be much more compatible than others, you know. Okay. We're asking about the Mafia games. I've only played the first Mafia game, and actually no, I tried to play some of the third one, but it wasn't grabbing me for some reason. I was interested in the setting, but that's another one where they did things to like the artistic style I didn't like, where they were doing things with the color where everything was looking like this faded photograph, but they were making the reds and greens real strong. It created this weird mood that I wasn't quite into. And the story wasn't quite grabbing me. I don't have really, I've just thought it was sort of okay, the first one. And I actually have kind of negative associations, but this is no fault of the game. This is all of me, where I accidentally, like, okay, the horn key, I did not realize worked when you're on pedestrian mode also. And for whatever reason, that got bound to some function I did a lot, like maybe ducking or even like moving right. And for some reason, my brain never made the connection. So throughout the game, I kept periodically hearing like, what it'll do is he'll whistle when you hit the horn key on pedestrian. So just sporadically, I would just hear this like wow, I can't whistle. I guess I'm too dry right now. Just sporadically throughout the game, and it started driving me a little bit crazy. But that was my fault for not checking what was happening and not making the connections. So, I mean, without that, I found it was just sort of okay. Someone's asking if I have a bicycle in the case of the apocalypse, underused means of transport and media. Not at the moment. I did when I came to Poland, but that got stolen, our first apartment, because didn't really have a lot of space for it inside the apartment, and the landlord said it was fine to keep it chained to the railing. Again, this is my fault. I wasn't thinking outside the box enough. It was chained to the railing. What I didn't realize was that the railing was able to be dismantled. So what they did is they ended up going there and dismantling the railing inside the apartment, which you still have to buzz in, but and got the bike that way. So where I'm at now, there's sort of like a parking garage space where you can, where there's several bikes that you can lock them up to like this rack. So I may end up getting one again just to sort of expand my range, because I've seen practically everything within a certain walking distance, unless I want to get to the point where I'm just walking for hours. So a bike will let me expand my range quite a bit of what I could explore around my given area. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, as for apocalypse, I'm not. I mean, I guess it could be handy, but you know, there's a lot of variables with that. Yeah, I need to teach Magda how to ride a bike too, then, so she could come with me. Right, that's one of those things she never got around to learning, so I'll have to teach her sometime, or get her a bike she can use. Seems nowadays people on the internet are too capable of completely ruining a person's life if the fancy strikes them. Can you share any advice on safeguarding yourself against being doxxed or other methods of someone who hates your guts for one reason or they might employ against you. I don't have anything special. I mean, it's I'm not sure how much you can do because there's probably people who are experts in this sort of thing. Because even if you're like all your accounts are really locked down and not very traceable, there could be like public directories your information's in, and then I don't know how one goes about doxing someone. So you probably have to learn the methodology and then figure out what you can protect yourself against. Yeah, I mean, if someone hates your guts, I mean, there's something to be said for trying not to get people to hate your guts in the first place. I mean, doesn't mean you're gonna win everybody over, but at this same time, you know, if you're basically like calling people to make yourself a target, I guess be ready. You know, I'm thinking back to that quote in Invisible War where JC saying, it's like I have no enemies, just topographies of ignorance. You know, I think you might find yourself getting into less trouble trying to take that approach to things, to disagreements and everything. So there's something to be said for not incentivizing people to want to dox you in the first place. But again, that's sort of like general advice. Obviously, there's some situations where you're gonna butt heads against people, but see, that's not really what I focus on the internet. I'm here. Oh yeah, okay. Hey, another. So for now, yeah, for what the kind of stuff I'm using the internet for. Here's something I meant to ask. Almost forgot. I've been trying to play Clive Barker's Undying in VR with stereoscopic, and one thing that's bugging me is I can't turn off the crosshair. But this is the Unreal Engine, and I tried using the same commands. So I have a console. I tried using the same commands to turn off the crosshair that I used for the original Unreal, but it doesn't work. Like in the original Unreal, if you specify a crosshair that isn't there, it just gets rid of it. But in Undying, it seems to just go to the default crosshair instead. So I'm thinking the only way to change this might be to actually figure out where the graphic is for one of the crosshairs and put in a placeholder graphic somewhere that the game uses. So if anybody has ideas on how to get rid of the crosshair in Clive Barker's Undying, let me know. Like I said, this is the stuff I want to focus on the internet, like stuff that like kind of pursuing my own projects that like there's information out there. I'm really not looking to pick fights with people on the internet unless I feel like there's a real solid purpose to it. You know, so like if it like again like with a legal argument for trying to get games preserved, it's like fine. If I just need to defend the position, fine. Let's have a debate or argument about it. If that means that then we can then proceed to actually making getting the law enforced on it. You know, so but it's just not worth my time. I don't really have like a big satisfaction of being right in an argument. I think maybe I did more when I was younger, but it's just, okay, if the person doesn't believe me and all the evidence is there and this is probably pretty sure, or this is objective reality, fine, they don't have to believe me. Yeah, you know, it's like, what I have to have a really strong purpose to be like convincing others that they're wrong and like getting into the debate. And for the vast majority of things, it isn't the place for that. But yeah, email me about if you have ideas about, hell, getting rid of the HUD too. That might not hurt for VR, but yeah, the crosshair in particular is kind of annoying because it doesn't let your eyes focus on quite the same level that you would. I think it might be hurting the immersion just a little bit having the crosshair there. So I think it's probably not too hard, but I don't know how to do it. I was having trouble finding information on that. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, sorry I don't have special advice on that. How did you find out about Martian Gothic? I think that must have been budget bin material where I picked it up, where the premise looked cool, and I mean the game certainly starts off promising. Yeah, Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like, I mean, if it was just all the things together, if they kept the puzzles down to like Resident Evil level where it's pretty basic puzzling and that, then it might have worked, you know, because then you could kind of plan where you're going better and you could deal with the infinite respawns. And I still don't like limited saves. I think limited saves is a mistake because, like I said in the video, you know, you're trying to pace yourself and you don't know what the situation is, you know, what you're pacing yourself for. But you could do, no, I take that back. You could do limited saves in a way that works with the horror motif where, you know, you're going a long time, you're getting more nervous. The way you do that is you have limited saves, but it's under the game's control. So like, let's say it's like a save station, you use it, but then it takes time to recharge and it's not going to recharge until you've done a certain event. So then you know when you first open up this area, that's probably a good time to save. And then you don't have the save, then that save's unavailable until you kind of go to a new area, then that one's available. And then once you're finally backtracking, oh, this save became available again. That means I should use it. So yeah, that's not player agency you want. Limited, in my opinion. Either you kind of can say, either you have unlimited saves, but you have to get to the save room, so you can't just save anywhere, or you'd have to have the developer kind of in control of the pacing, because otherwise it's like it doesn't make sense unless you know what's coming, you know, and you don't. But yeah. So you either need the developer to be more hands-on or give unlimited saves to the player. I think it doesn't work out well, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a fan of stuff you need to know what's coming. I like going in blind and experiencing it myself. So. And if the game severely punishes that, then that's not my kind of game. Let's see. Asking about Pathologic. Played a little bit of the first one, then I just watched the playthrough, and then I'm glad I did, because it totally didn't strike me as my kind of game. I don't like stuff where you really have to know what's coming or figure out this really odd things. There's probably a term for this. Like what's the term for gameplay where you have to know what's coming? Because this is going to extend to a lot of different types of games where, like I'm thinking of something like Battletoads. Like it's impossible to beat Battletoads if you have no idea what's going to come at you in that game. You have to like you can't beat that speeder level. Yeah, you can play the first 2 levels and have no idea what's coming and just be, and that speeder level. No, you have to know what barriers are coming. So I'm honing gameplay. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Whereas if it's something where you just have to be really good, that's different. Now those two can kind of blur into each other. Like an example of like having to be very good would be like, let's say an enemy does an attack on you and you have like 0.5 seconds to block that sucker. And you know the block mechanic, but if you don't do that, it's gonna kill you. And even then, that might not be my favorite, but then it feels like, okay, well, this is my fault though, because I had figure out maybe not that, maybe 0.5 seconds isn't reasonable, but the point is if your arcade reflexes are honed to a T and you're just ready to go, then you can maybe go a substantial ways in the game, but there's not like these kind of sucker punch deaths where, no, 0.5 seconds isn't enough. You had to be preparing for that hit coming before you saw it or before it was projected. So, yeah, Telegraph. Yeah, no, Telegraph's different. Telegraph's where, if you're a real good player, telegraphing still works. Like, if there's a big boss who's like raising his hammer up to slam on you, you better get out of the way, or you better have like a special block move or something or a dodge. Telegraphing can be either one of those things, where sometimes the telegraph sign, you had no way of knowing that was going to lead to this kind of attack, so it's kind of unfair. Like if the telegraph move is like his shield glows for a second and then it explodes in everything in the screen and you know you had to be in the bottom left corner, well, you kind of needed to know what that telegraph meant. But if it's like a big swing they're about to hit you, or like or you've seen them do like this blast and then you see them puffing up for another blast, so you know that's going to come forward. Okay, that's reasonable to guess like on the fly, like, okay, I better get out of the way here, or I better get high ground or lower ground. Or if there's doing something and there's like rumbling from the ground, you know you better get to higher ground. So there's fair telegraphs and there's unfair telegraphs, I think. But yeah, I don't like ones where you have to know what's coming. You know, there's no other way. I mean, but some people like that. They just see it as something to fail at, then get practice, and I don't know. It's for me, it's like the failing process has to be really fun for me to enjoy it. Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, if it's a sucker punch death, but I just saved literally 20 seconds ago, and then they pull the cheap trap, I'll be okay, you know, then it's kind of funny. So, but you gotta have to gauge how much the player's time you're wasting. If it's just like 20 seconds at a time, that's not so bad, you know. Oh yeah, this was oh yeah, okay. Will you ever play a game with fans again? Yeah, I might. And I realized it slipped my mind with this. Oh shoot, another announcement. Okay, I promised. Well, I mean, I promised, but I said I would Darkwood. I said I would stream Darkwood for October, but I ended up getting so busy I couldn't do that. And I said like, okay, that or early November. Well, now it's early November, but I already had the video chat, so I'm gonna try and make up for it and start streaming Darkwood this month. I'll put the times in on Twitter and the website and maybe the description too. So I'll start doing that. I'll probably just be on Saturdays, I guess. I haven't played that. That's another one I'm going in blind on. So hopefully that's not a problem. For Sunless Sea, I think that was a big problem. I think it was a little too hard. That didn't go so well last. I think I was a little too hard on it. But the thing is, anyone who says to play that game blind, no, I don't encourage that at all. Like, I encourage you to. I think the game has a lot of great potential, but you really should understand the mechanics first and how everything works. Like that's absolutely a game where it's not fun to learn as you go, in my opinion. Maybe it's fun to learn like which quest you should accept and who to talk to and what should you go south, or maybe that part's fun, but just the bare mechanics, I don't think it's fun at all to figure that out on the fly. I think it's better to like read a manual and study all of that. But when I play a game with fans against, I realized I kind of screwed up on the Secret World because they have these like high-end zones in all the existing zones we could have done. We could have done like a group combat thing. So maybe I'll do the Secret World again. I don't know. Yeah, I'm always like on the fence with streaming. It's like part of me wants to, part of me doesn't. But maybe I'll get more time cleared up. But I already tried to commit to Darkwood. And I had to cancel it because I was so busy. So this time I'll try and make up for it this month. Yeah, this one, I saw this question. I should answer this one. What are your thoughts on boycotting Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard games instead of paying for them because of the many cases of sexual assault that took place in the companies and the executives knowing about them but doing nothing? Yeah, okay, well, this is like a layered question. We'll see how many layers I get through. The first layer is, I think pirating a game to boycott something is, I think it's kind of dumb. I'm not saying you're dumb, but it just maybe means you haven't thought through it. because it sends the exact opposite message that you want. Because if you pirate a game, what the company sees is, okay, a lot of people pirated our game. So that means we did a good job on our game. We just need to protect our assets more. So maybe we need more DRM, or maybe we need more online only stuff, or maybe switch to a free to play model or something. So you're sending the wrong message. You're not sending the message, I disapprove of what you did. You're sending it, oh, I like your game. I just didn't like your payment method. Because I think like I was able to come up with like 4 reasons to pirate a game. One is for game preservation for some games, because pirates have done a far better job historically of preserving games than the actual source companies have. Obviously, it varies on the company, but if you look at the average, it's no contest. 2, I think the most common reason is you want to play the game, but you don't want to pay for it. Okay, well, that's a pretty straightforward reason. 3 is you want to play the game and you can't, where maybe it's like in a region that you want, you're in a region where it's not being sold, or you have like a locked out account or something, or like this particular version isn't for sale. So that's a reason. And the 4th is if you kind of want to just like monkey around with it in a way that you can't do with a legit copy. Like I'm thinking of like examples where, what was it? Like people wanted to bench, like I think on one of the Resident Evils, they were using de novo copy protection, and they found that like doing benchmarking, it actually caused some stuttering in places if you're using the legit copy with the DRM over just a crack copy. So if you wanted to go in and benchmark that stuff, sure. Or like, let's say you wanted to run a hack on something that like it was online and it could get your account banned, but you just wanted to screw around with the game. Well then, yeah, you want pirated copy. Actually, I know of an example of this. I found out, I think for Forza Horizon 4, if you want to, I think the game is, geez, is that online only? Okay, now I'm not sure. I think the game, it normally tries to usher you in online, but when it does that, it's by season. Okay, maybe this isn't a pirate thing, but the game has different seasons, and like each week it just switches the season. So this week it might be fall, and next week it's winter, and the next one's spring, and so on. But if you're running it offline, or I think for sure on a crack copy, and you change the time of your computer so it's not connecting online, then you can set it to any season you want. So it's like, oh, I don't want to wait. Like it's fall right now. Let's say I wanted to end the season of summer. It's like, well, I don't want to wait. I don't want to play summer. I want to play fall because it's fall now. I just go, if you go in and play the crack copy, then you can change the time and now you're playing during fall. And that's a feature you don't get if you're playing legit online. So there's some fringe cases like that. So, but yeah, protesting, no, you're sending the wrong message if you're pirated. I thought about it. I realized this would make you a hypocrite, but the only way you could pirate the game and see, a boycott, you're at least sending the message. Yeah, okay. That's a lot of thoughts. If you're boycotting something, you're sending the message that, no, you disapprove of the company or the game, whatever. That can work in theory. In my experience, it has never worked if the game is good. So if the game is good otherwise. So let's say a company did awful things to the employees, or they're putting in some awful like DRM that's like really intrusive, but it's a solid game and a lot of people like it, then the boycott is effectively worthless. Like I've never seen that be successful because too many gamers want to play the game. And that's the thing. Actually, when I did the research for the Games as a Service, they made the point that, I don't know if I put this in the video, that games are essentially a creative monopoly. There's no substitute. Yeah, I think I did sort of make this point where, if you want like a toaster or a hammer or something and some company is being terrible, then you can get a replacement and the replacement's just as good. Whereas, no, with a game, each one is a unique experience. You don't really get a replacement. You just get, at best, you'll get a game that has similarities. So it holds that kind of hostage. So I've never seen a boycott work, but if you just want to do it on ideological grounds, I get that. But I realized with pirating, the only way you could do that and have it like work as a boycott is you basically would have to pirate the game. I mean, it wouldn't. It'd still make you a hypocrite ideologically, but in terms of real world value, in terms of real world impact, this would have the same effect as if you boycotted it. So the way you could do that, you would have to pirate the game with absolutely no digital footprint. So if a company was looking up stats to find out, okay, how many people torrented this, or how many people downloaded this from a file locker somewhere on some pirate site, you'd have to get it from a source, maybe SneakerNet, where maybe somebody already pirated it and you got a copy from them or something, and then install the game that way. So there are no statistics online that you pirated this game. And even then, that wouldn't be enough. Even then, that wouldn't be enough. When you play the game, you can never talk about this game with anyone. So if you played the game, you cannot talk about any of the mechanics or anything, because now you're perpetuating the popularity of this game or the discussion. You could only talk about it in terms as though you never played it. Like, no, everybody should boycott this game. You have to say it like that. So again, that will make you a hypocrite because you're saying to boycott it while you're not boycotting it really. But the effect would be the same. However, in my experience, the effect of a boycott has never worked for gaming, unless the game also sucks. If the game sucks, then people will boycott it in droves, or has like big problems. But if it's a good game, I've never seen a boycott be effective for gaming. Yeah, I remember people were saying when I made the games as a service video, like I didn't have enough faith in gamers, and that's true. I do not have faith in gamers to not play games. Like, I have faith in gamers to do all kinds of other things, but not playing games they want to play is not one of them. I have no faith in gamers, extremely little. Some people can walk the walk, but you're such a small minority that it doesn't change the tide of things. So, in the bad games, boycotts can be effective, but I think I may skip the other layers of this. I will. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe real quick. I would say the other layer of this is, sexual abuse is one that's pretty specific. So you could probably do your homework and figure out which companies are doing that and not doing that. The thing is, there's so many companies that they're all doing something that ends up leading to like horrendous practices if you follow the chain down long enough. Like let's say that who they subcontract with to have like physical copies of the games, maybe that person has a contract with this company for making plastics to put the game case in, and they're working with a waste disposal facility that basically just dump it into the river, or the manufacturer and they're actually poisoning people from it. And that chain, so by buying that game, you're actually perpetuating that. And I feel like almost everything in the modern world is like this to a degree, so that it's like almost inescapable. So I think I mentioned before that like if to be like an ethical consumer, like or ethical business, you would almost have to be like you're Amish, where you're in control of the entire chain all the way to the point where there's no exploitation or like abuse of any kind to be able to track it. Because as soon as you start working with other companies, that company in particular may not do anything that's horrendous, but then it depends on other companies that are doing something, or a couple chains down. And I'm not defending that at all. It's just that you don't change that from buying from one company or another. You only change the most surface-based visible stuff that you see from that. So in this case, it was the sexual abuse. So I was going to say that's such a massive problem. I don't know how to go about starting with that. However, I will say, I think in the case of Blizzard too, one of the things that can cut through that is law enforcement. So if an executive knows they're not this, if the executive knows that everybody participating in this might be facing prison time, that has much more of an impact on how far this stuff perpetuates. So whereas if it's just like a slap on the wrist at most, then, or like financially, then it's not much of a deterrent. So yeah, but I just get kind of lost in the fog for knowing what to support that. I mean, earlier I said, I'm basically boycotting Facebook. That's not because I think my boycott's going to do anything. It's just because they made the experience so negative for me personally that I feel like I'd be punishing myself by buying from them almost because of what psychologically, So yeah, I don't think the boycott's ineffective. I think what's more effective is, again, law enforcement of this stuff. But so if everyone involved ends up going to jail for sexual harassment, I think that's so much more effective than things. But even then, this is why I say I'm in a fog, because sometimes whistleblowers, they get punished. Like, I mean, as there's lots of this stuff going on at the political level, but like, easy example, Edward Snowden. He is still basically in exile in Russia because if he comes back, they're probably going to throw the book at him and try him like a war criminal, and who knows, maybe kill him, maybe execute him, or send him to horrendous existence for basically being a whistleblower. So, and then again, that goes back to just not having law enforcement. If we followed the law, then not Snowden. I mean, I think he did try to do it by the book as far as a whistleblower, or maybe like a couple things, maybe a couple things would warrant like a year or two jail time or like community service. Like, well, maybe this particular tactic wasn't the same, but what you were doing was to expose something that that a larger agency was breaking the law with. But if the larger agency doesn't care about that and doesn't enforce the law, then you're in weird territory. So I don't have easy answers for that, but I cleared this up the best I could for your question. And this is a question worth answering for me. How have things changed with your move to Windows 10 and the GUI? This is like this is like a long-going project for me, but this is almost like a Jenga game where it's like, in order to do this, I have to like remove these blocks first, and like, maybe Jenga isn't the best example. The point, there's a lot of interdependencies here. I'm trying to take this in phases. So here's everything I'm trying to do with the GUI. I'll just state my plans. I want to skin the windows best I can to kind of change the look of them, so I like the default look better and not just the Windows 10 look. I want to change all the icons to the stuff that I like for everything. I mean, the system tray, task manager, stuff inside the file explorer, just like everything pretty much. I think Icon Packager will get me most of the way there. And I think Windows blinds will get me most of the way with the skinning of the windows. However, part of the... See, this opens up further problems, because I've noticed with window blinds, I need to get my hands dirty and confirm this, but I think if you're using DPI scaling at anything other than multiples of 100%, it blurs the image. And that sucks. You don't want to be looking at blurry windows for eternity. So if that doesn't work, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, because on my monitor, I have a 1440 monitor. I need the DPI scaling. Things are too tiny at 100%. But so I think I have it at like 125 or 150. Now, I was going to do a test like, hey, maybe this is just, maybe I could take the plunge eventually and get a 4K monitor and just play only older games then, because I'm not going to be driving a lot of modern stuff on 4K. the what? Then I can maybe bump it up to 200% DPI, but then maybe that's still too big. I don't know. So maybe yeah. Are there any window blind skins that have taken your fancy? No, only really old ones that are outdated. I'm actually working on a custom one, or somebody's helping me work. It's getting pretty close to done. It's modeled after the old school blue curve theme from Linux. I think it was mostly used in Linux. But we might try and get one or two more done, like maybe an alternate one and maybe one dark theme. So, and then once that's all done, I'll release it publicly. So that's one thing I'm gonna have to try and figure out. If that doesn't work, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, because Stardock has an option, another program called Curtains. But it doesn't skin nearly as much. It's not gonna be as satisfying. But I'm trying to struggle with that. Right now, I was able to reproduce some of the bare bones functionality of my other theme, which still isn't amazing, using Nexus Dock. That has a lot of stuff, and the program Rainmeter, but that stuff's really wonky. It's even rougher than Lightstep, I'd argue, on Windows 10, but I'm getting most of my functionality there, and then I have some hotkeys set up, or they're called hot spots, for where you click at certain places with the mouse. I have various hotkeys set up, and there's other stuff. And then once I get all that in order the best I can get it, then I hope to make the GUI follow-up. And then I'm gonna go into I've had more thoughts since I made that. Someone's offered to help me make a mock-up of what, not exactly a perfect UI would be, but a better UI, I think, would be. And I'm really hope to kind of manifest how that would work, and people could get an idea. And hopefully that could lead to something better in the future. Not really counting on that, but I want to give it a shot. Because this is something where I don't know what the best GUI would be, but for sure, I think this system would be better than anything that we're seeing right now. That is how I would put it. Let's see. Yeah, if I checked out the Unix porn channel on Reddit for Glorious Desktops, I did months back, and one of the top comments I saw on that was, "What happened? Everything's this flat thing that seems to be copying Windows or mobile devices. What happened to the variety? What happened to all this different thing? It's like everything's doing the same thing, just different, except they're just showing command line and different wallpapers. What happened to my beloved channel?" And that's what it kind of looked like at the time, but I haven't checked that out lately. So there used to be a lot more variety visually, in my opinion, unlike Linux in the mid-2000s for themes. But I'll lay that all out on I'll lay that all out on when I do the follow-up. So I'm trying to get things the best I can right now, and then once I get that all sorted out, sort of the basic functionality, there's some more tweaks I'm doing, and the general look. I want to start the long road of trying to mouse gesture my whole system, and so I can be just waving things around and automate as many things as possible. Yep. Okay, I'll mention this because I imagine this might come up. People might be wondering, how could I have possibly taken 4 hours to volume balance the audio for Freedom's Mind? The thing is, some of it I was doing, when I balance all the tracks together, that's usually done in Premiere. And I do some initial volume balancing of the audio, the voice track before that. But let's say I'm talking and I talked over a little bit of what the dialogue of the person, or what the NPC was saying, but I didn't really care about that dialogue, so I just wanted it to be quieter. But as soon as I'm done, I wanted their volume to be louder. And before that, the volume was fine. So what I have to do is, in Premiere on the timeline, I have to, mark a point where the volume is here, then mark another point where the volume's lower, then go forward, and then mark a point where it's lower again, and then go back up and mark where it's higher again. And I have to put in number values for all of these because it's so sensitive if I try to just move sliders that won't be accurate enough. So I have to like click here, type in a number. Okay, now click here, type in a number, click here, type in a number, then click here, and then type in a number. And that's just one volume adjustment, and it drives me out of my friggin' mind. Like this is something where a better UI for that sort of thing, probably different software entirely, would probably be much better, where I could just go like, okay, just here, click, move here, there, and then just click, move here. And then I could have some presets where if I noticed a lot of volume, let's say a lot of volume drops, I want like -15 decibels. Well, the thing is I can copy that when I'm in Premiere, I can copy that number to speed it up a little bit, but then let's say I need another one. I'm not really set up for like 5 different presets or something like that. I'm not sure if it supports that. So it's the sort of thing where if I got that sorted out, I could probably cut off hours of my time if I had a really efficient user interface for that sort of thing. But I don't know if that even is possible. So it's it was kind of crazy. Like I hate it. However, even if I had all that, I don't enjoy volume balancing to begin with. I would so much rather pay somebody else to do a good job on it. So hopefully as long as I can afford it, it's worth their time too. So hopefully I can just cut that out entirely. But that's an example of like how the UI efficiency can make a dramatic difference. If I could do something like what they showed in Minority Report, where I could just go, okay, here, here, I'll try to show this on the camera. Here, okay, just go like pinch motion, dot, pinch motion, like dot, and then like a slider, then go on the next one. My arms might be very tired, but I would have saved hours of time doing that for all the different adjustments I had to do for the videos. So, let's see. So yeah, I really want to make the follow-up to the GUI video, but I gotta, it's like a road I want to build up to it so that I want to do it right. Because I want to show the best I was able to get under the current methods and then show what I would do if we had better software. And that's the part I think a lot of people are going to be interested in. Even if you hate the look of what I have, I think you could agree that what I'm proposing would be much better than what we have now. But I think in the very long term, mouse gestures are the way to go. But there doesn't seem to be much of a existing system for that. So I basically have to develop my own system for mouse gestures and what makes sense, because you don't want things that are going to be like delete. You don't want that to be super easy. It has to be like a real intentional motion. But at the same time, you don't want it to be like 10 steps either, because, you know, I can delete a lot of files on a daily basis. So it's, and then you got to figure out like what ergonomics work best. Because like if you're right-handed, maybe motions more to your right are going to be easier, or loop. And I found like up and down stuff it doesn't feel as good for me on the mouse. So you mainly only want like one motion of those combined. I'm sure I really wasn't joking when I said it's almost like coming up with your own martial arts style. It's like, I'm sure, yeah, if you have suggestions on that, by all means, let me know. Like what motion would you, pretend you're a wizard casting spells, what motion would you want for copy, expand, rename, delete, various hotkeys for various gestures for different hotkey, some different programs. Like, you know, like let's say, well, that's one I've already mapped to my mouse is like cut. That's like Control K in Premiere. Those are awful ergonomics if you're doing it the normal way. But if I just hit a button, I can just go clip. Okay, split the clip in two, because that's something operation I was doing all the time. There's so much thought that goes into this, but I feel like it's worth it. But yeah, but yeah, again, my email, rosswscott@gmail.com. If you have suggestions for making your own sort of OS martial arts style with what would you want these gestures of the mouse to do, by all means, lay them on me. I'd rather have a starting place with this stuff where you've thought about it. You know, like, well, I thought, you know, going up and then to the left and up again worked well, but then that felt kind of awkward and my hand cramped, or I was triggering this by accident, or, you know, something like that. I should check some forums for this. Okay, try and hurry up with questions. I'm gonna. Do you think that you could put some of your ideas in the form of a novel or short story? They're always meant for visual format. I mean, I could write short stories, but I would always want to go the next step and make it visual. I would want to make a video out of it. I don't have plans to write a book, fiction enough. I feel like I have the image in my head. I'd rather manifest it all the way, you know. Okay, skipping some questions now. I haven't played The Surge, but I have a copy of it, and I'm assuming now that any single game that's Souls-like, I'm just gonna have a better time if I find a trainer of some sort to give me some edge. Like, I played through Blasphemous. I loved it. I used a trainer that ended up giving me one-hit kills because it was just feeling like such a slog without that. And I probably didn't need one-hit kills. I probably should have done the one that amplified damage, so I'm doing like 3 times as much damage by default. That probably would have balanced it better, but I still had a great time with it. I'm just assuming anything Souls-like is not going to be a great, like, fun to time invested ratio for me. That's so I would put it. But it probably will be if I use cheats. So, okay, some broad questions. Why did you not include rewards for Martian Gothic at the end of the video? Was the game that bad or simply due to time constraints? It's partially time constraints and partially, like, I don't want to feel like I've just as you may have noticed from these video chats, I can repeat myself a lot. So I'm not trying to lay that on extra thick on the Game Dungeon episodes also. So it would have to be sort of like, I was even hesitant at putting the one for Gothos. Because I felt like, I'm repeating things a little bit, but I don't know. I'm still undecided about the awards. But yeah, it was a time thing because the awards take more time because then I got to come up with graphics for that. Then I got to put it and then like lay it out, the editing, and everything slows me down. Like, again, I put in 90, for sure I put in 90 to 100 hours that week. And I was putting in a lot of hours before then, just not as insane. Ross, should there be an OS that is financed and administered by a public authority, like the U.S. government or the European Union? Yeah, I think that would make... Okay, yes and no. I feel like big governments have much higher priorities than an OS. You know, like, again, like, you know, making sure everybody has food and water, shelter, that sort of thing. But I think, yeah, that would be a worthwhile pursuit, but I think you'd have to make it open source in order, because there'd be too much distrust otherwise. But yeah, because, like, I've actually been watching some clips from Linus Tech Tips lately where he's been describing his Linux experience, and I've definitely seen a few parallels. The thing is, okay, this will make it too long, but I guess I feel like Linux, its focus on the end user isn't that much better than it was like a decade and a half ago. Like, I really tried to make a push on Linux. Like, I mean, it depends. Like, again, it depends, but like, for basic things, I think it's pretty good. Once you get past basic things, I think it's still about as rough as it was 15 years ago. Because I tried to make a push into Linux like 15 years back, like seeing how far I could get with it, because I kind of hated a lot of Windows, and there were just big problems. I'm seeing a lot of parallels now. So I feel like part of the problem is Linux doesn't really have funding where that's its main focus. I think where just the fact that I know this is a controversial thing, but look, the average user, if they have to use the command line for anything, that should be a fail scenario. And the thing is, that can be a tall order for Linux, especially if you're asking volunteers, because a lot of the things to solve that may not be the most fun things to work on a program for. So it would be good to have funding to kind of make things more open. So yeah, I think that would be great. Although I'm also with the government just enforcing antitrust law on Microsoft. I mean, I think like when it was made, what was the Sherman Antitrust Act, like I think the percentage of the market share was something like 75%, was where you basically, you're just too big, period, under government law. Well, if you look at the desktop percentage, I think they're right around there. And if you look at PC gaming, they're way past that. It's like you're gaming on an x80, you're gaming on a personal computer, so not like a console. It's locked down. Like what market share runs Windows? It's like 96% or something like that. I mean, going by Steam stats. So yeah, fine. That maybe if they actually had to compete in some way, then they might not pull so much crap. But no, I think that is a good idea. But it would have to be open source. Like it would be too. I think too many people would be distrustful of government efforts. Whereas if they can just see it all there, then they could realize this is a more kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Objectively trying to make a good thing program, you know? Or if it's not, they could find the offending source and make a big deal out of it publicly. So. Okay, this is a subtitle question. Yeah, I never removed the feature to submit subtitles. That was YouTube. Yeah, in fact, subtitles are better than ever now on my channel because you can submit them in the forums. Daniel will put them on the YouTube videos. I mean, obviously Daniel might change his mind later, but he's been pretty great about that in the past. And I'm not trying to put everything on him. Skimming some more questions. Okay, ask you about the metaverse. Do you have any experience with the franchise based on Dune? Yeah, I've read the original book, and I've seen the older movies. I haven't seen the new one yet. Although I heard it's a part 1, so maybe I'll just wait till part 2 is out before I see the new one. Although, yeah, I feel like Dune, that's one of those science fiction stories. I'm not sure they really needed to do a remake of that. I mean, because you kind of got what you needed. Because in the original one, that veers more from the book, but then you have like the whole David Lynch take on it, which was very stylistic and pretty cool. And then I think it was like the Science Fiction Channel had the mini series that was a lot closer to the book. So it's like I mean, I'm not an ultimate expert here or anything, but I kind of feel like we have between the two of them, we kind of had our bases covered. So it's like, oh, we're going to remake that again. I mean, look, I am happy for a big budget science fiction movie that's good, but it's like, couldn't we get something else instead? Like, you know, I feel like Dune was pretty well covered. You know, I mean, if you want the more stylistic stuff, watch the David Lynch version. If you want it closer to the book, watch the sci-fi version. It's still good. Or at least I remembered it being that way. So yeah, I mean, it's all right. You know, I like, but I kind of know that story. I'm not in a rush to see the new one because I know, at least I'm assuming exactly how it's going to go. I'd rather see some science fiction story that never got a movie adaptation, you know, or one that maybe did, but it was a really poor job, so it's worth coming back to again. People are asking about Windows 11. I think I talked about my thoughts on that last time, or the time before it. I forget. Gonna adopt and adapt it, early avoid it. I'm in no hurry at all. It took me so long to kind of bind things for Windows 10. I'm not seeing any features I really care about. Maybe the Windows snapping is a little better. That's about, and some things look a little nicer. But I'm going to be scrapping all the icons anyway. I'm trying to change the look of the Windows anyway. And I've heard there's some stuff going on now. Well, one, my current CPU doesn't support it, though I could probably dance around that. But it's getting dizzy. Probably need more air. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, recently I heard there was some screw up where like the certificates were expiring and then that made things not work. So I mentioned that to a friend of mine and he said that kind of alarmed them because, well, wait, if that's expiring, what else is going to expire down the road? Like, so that even if you get to lock things off from it screwing with your system from the updates, well, it could be like some bombs kind of built in where the OS is going to expire on its own. So actually, for all I know, Windows 10 has that, but so far it hasn't hit me. So I'm just in no rush at all. I'm not seeing a lot of benefit. Okay, people are asking multiple questions. I have not played the first Guild Wars. Which monster villain from a classic action horror movie would I least like to face? Predator, Terminator. Predator might not be so bad because the Predator wants a challenge. He wants like, I would not be trying to kill the Predator. I'd just be kind of running, and they probably wouldn't. Terminator. I guess probably they're saying Alien, Terminator. I guess Terminator. Terminator would probably be the worst. I mean, I can't think of any obvious way to stop it. I mean, Alien would be very bad too, but you could kind of, you could get into some sort of bunker situation to kind of maybe wait out the alien, and then it might lose interest and go after something else. But Terminator, I don't know. Well, I mean, they're giving the examples there. Terminator would be really bad. I mean, it would. I mean, it would use guns on you. It would just pursue you. It would try to track you down wherever you are. I mean, you could probably go, who knows what tools it has to be able to track you. Even if you like went off into the woods, it might be able to like scan your footprints and realize this one's you. You know, I mean. Oh, somebody's talking about a game jam. I'm not. I've made my thoughts known on game jams. I'm not a big fan of them. I feel like people should just try to make a good game and take as long as they need to. Somebody's asking if I like ravioli. Sure, but I shouldn't be eating it. Let's see. Oh yeah, they're asking if I. Well, they're kind of answering their own question for Chosen Well of Souls. I made it to the desert level, and they're asking that means I slogged through the earlier part. Yeah, that's what it means. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is the question that reminded me I need to get back to what I wanted to with Game Dungeon, so that I don't really want it to be a playthrough where I talk about every little thing. I kind of just want to bounce around all over the place. But I kind of want to do that in a way that's satisfying too. So that kind of means, so I'll probably end things more with the end of the game or just like a conclusion where, as opposed to just pure random thoughts. So. Okay, I guess this one needs more points. Yeah, I've been running a while. I'm going to skip more. Okay. I don't really, someone's asking about Valve's PC-less VR headset. I don't really care about that too much because I figure you're probably going to be able to throw a lot more power at a VR game from a dedicated video card than you can from like a standalone integrated like APU kind of number. So I mean, wireless could be nice, but it's not the biggest draw for me. I'd rather have the extra power. That said, yeah, you want yeah, I found out last week, uh, Pimax is announcing, was it the 12K QLED? It sounds like everything you could possibly want from a VR headset, although like I would almost describe this as the one. However, Pimax has kind of a spotty reputation for how much they can deliver on, so they could be overpromising. And the other thing is they're using QLED panels, which I probably wouldn't want, because even though, same thing for OLEDs, like even though I'm sure they give great color and image quality, they can be prone to burn-in. So now a VR headset is going to be moving a lot more, so that would take a lot longer. But this thing was expensive. This thing, if I bought it, I would want it working 10 years easily. And maybe over the course of 10 years, I don't want an OLED panel because then I start to get burn-in. I would much rather have something that's like an IPS panel where the color isn't as perfect, but it's still pretty nice, and it could last a hell of a lot longer. So, yeah, that's the only thing I didn't like about that. But other than that, look it up. It hits every spec I could want. I mean, huge FOV, dual 6K panels. They're claiming they fixed all the distortion on the edges. Again, it has like this special lens technique that I think the Vario is using, which people have been raving about that one. So that's why I said there's serious competition going on in the VR market. It reminds me of video cards in the 2000s where like a lot of different companies are bringing stuff to the table, but that sounds like the one to end them. Though, I mean, the price is very high. No, 2,400 is what they're saying. Though it blows away everything else underneath that. I'll say that. And above it from the specs. So, but those are just the specs. Obviously, the reality, we'll see what that ends up being. Oh yeah, it can be wired or detachable and have its own internal processor. So it has like everything you could want, except I'm worried about the longevity. But yeah, but I could see myself buying that if I thought that like, yeah, this could last 10 years or longer, because I think there's nothing not to like about it. But again, those are just from the specs. Yeah, so it should be approached carefully. Probably won't end up getting. Actually, that's one thing I learned. Now I'm even kind of hesitant about getting a regular Pimax or the Index, because I found out there's a lot of reports online talking about the lighthouse stations, the 2.0 versions, where they'll emit this like high-pitched whine. I found a lot of reports of that. Or one guy was saying it was fine for a year, but then it started doing that. Now it's driving him crazy because they have like these fast rotating lasers, I think, inside them. And so if something is even like a little misaligned, it can kind of create this like ee sound. There's videos of it on YouTube. I was thinking, wow, that would drive me up the wall if I had that. So I might be on my current VR for a while. That made me not want to get an Index. And the thing is, the Pimax kind of piggybacks on that technology for the Lighthouse. So I may not want to get a Pimax either. So I think the thing I care about the most right now in VR is like having the largest field of view. So omitting those two, the Odyssey Plus might be the best game in town, but so I don't know. I mean, it can get better, but man, I do not want a high-pitched, man, especially because I record in here too. I would not want a high-pitched frequency going, because I can be sensitive to that sort of thing. Those sounds can drive me nuts. Okay, let's see. I have not seen the new Guardians of the Galaxy game. I mean, maybe I could try to. I just tend not to be as interested in like superhero games. I'm sure it's pretty good though. Paranoia Happiness is Mandatory has become a dead game after launching on the Epic Game Store. Getting average reviews and then getting pulled from sale. Have you heard about it? I had not heard about it, though. I would say you may want to clarify that's actually a dead game, because it could just be a delisted game. A delisted game means you can no longer buy a copy of it, but you can still play it if you have a copy already, or sometimes it can get pirated, that sort of thing. A dead game means no one can play it. I mean, maybe that is the case, but I'm not as worried about delisted games, but I obviously don't like it. But dead games is like another level that I think it should just be illegal, the way it's handled. No, someone's asking if I ever listened to the Country Road song. No, I don't like that song. I mean, I can enjoy literally driving on country roads. I don't like that song. It's just not my kind of music at all. I hate it. I know a lot of people like it. I really don't like it. So. Yeah, like I think it came up before with like country music. I much rather hear something like dueling banjos. I like hearing dueling banjos, but oh geez, there was a banjo song. I think it was a spoof in Cosmos Cosmic Adventures, like Foggy Breakdown or something like that. I like that one, but well, again, once they get to singing, oh boy, I'm really unlikely to like it. Okay, almost done. Okay, well, this was a decent question, but it was asked kind of late. They're asking about the Braincast. Ask again next time. Maybe it'll get voted up. Ross, please tell me your diet consists of more than just beans. Well, I haven't had beans in a long time now. Yeah, your memes are outdated, guys. But I understand if that haunts me to the end of my days. No, because the beans they're not good on the gut health list. And my skin can flake if I eat the wrong thing now. So I basically said what I'm eating at the beginning of the stream. Okay, now you can ask questions, and this time do the @Ross broadcast, because I didn't have time to set up the IRC chat, and hopefully it doesn't go by too fast. Because last time when Twitch had that big breach, I decided to change my password, and the IRC is not set up for that. It's on the old password, and I forgot how to change that. How many books a year do you read compared to playing games, watching movies? When do you find the time to read them? I don't know. It varies. I read a lot of articles. I guess for books, it's not that great. It's probably only like once a month average or something like that. The games can vary because games, like, okay, for instance, this past week even, I played some of the game same story on both of them. I played some of the newer Call of Cthulhu game. I mean, that's the full title, Call of Cthulhu. It's not the other ones, like Dark Corners of the Earth and Soma. And in both cases, I played about an hour or two, and then I decided, I'm not really digging the gameplay. And then I went and just watched a playthrough of the rest of it. And I thought, yeah, I don't think I would have enjoyed the game much past this. So it's like the game was interesting, but it wasn't enough to just hold my attention. I have so many games I'm trying to burn through. Not that there shouldn't be a lot of books I'm trying to get through too, but I was able to tear through that faster than I probably would have gone through a book. And usually the time I do it is actually when I eat. I usually read a lot. I usually read through most of my meals. So, yeah, maybe not as well read as I should be, but saying I went through 2 games, if I played through those all the way, that probably would have been like 18 hours. Whereas I got through it I got through those games combined in like 4 to 6, like, because I figure I played each of them an hour or 2, and then I watched through the playthrough, but then I skipped the parts where like, okay, we're just wandering a hallway, you know, and then like, oh, okay, now some plot's going on, I'll watch this part, that sort of thing. like, there's so much media out there. This feels like the only sane way for me to get through it all, because people talk about gaming backlogs. I'm someone who tends to get through my entire gaming backlog, and I'm never going to do it playing all of the games on their terms. I mean, if I'm enjoying the hell out of the game, I'll keep playing it, because like Hunt Down, I played that until the final boss, like, because the game was a blast. But if the game's just feeling like a bit of a chore, why and the playthrough exists, why stick with it? I mean, there's just so many other games out there. That's the only way for me to keep on top of this gaming renaissance. And I'm not even on top of it, but I feel better then, because it's like, yeah, I went through 5 games that week, whereas I played enough of it to where I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. But then I watched the playthrough and then I skimmed the playthrough for the rest of it to get the highlights. That happened with Evil Within. That was the other one I did. That was earlier in the month. The same thing. I played up until about chapter 4. I might have gotten past chapter 4, I forget. And I was just like, I'm not really digging this. And then I watched the playthrough of the rest, and then I didn't feel like I was missing out. Every once in a while, I'll see more of the playthrough, and I thought, oh, this got really cool. Maybe I shouldn't watch this. Maybe I should just go back and play more of it. So I'm willing to give a game their fair chance, but it's I'm ruthless now for a game, whether a game's worth my time. But there's a special exception for Game Dungeon where I feel like this game I would normally give up on by now, but this is so odd what's happening here, or I can't believe it's this bad. Like, then fine, let's document this, and I'll stay the course for Game Dungeon. So, have you heard about Formula One engineers claiming to develop a zero carbon footprint fuel ready by 2030? Well, I would bet you hard cash that's a lie. However, I can believe they'll be going to zero fossil fuels for running the car. But I mean, what, you're saying zero carbon footprint for manufacturing all the metal that goes into there, all the plastic that goes into manufacturing. I mean, I think that's a delusion. I mean, like, all the tires. And hey, let's not forget all the transportation of those supplies where you got, like, let's say you got the rubber from someplace in Africa. Okay, and we transported that to a factory in China for making the tires, or Germany, or wherever. So the transportation of those supplies, they did not use any fossil fuels either. And the manufacturing of those boats or trains or whatever, those aren't using. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I think it's delusional to take this. I mean, to say that it's carbon footprint free. Now, you can say that we're trying to reduce this in these key areas and it's better than that. But if you follow the chain, I think it's a lie. I think it's delusional. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, you can make the case for it, but you at least understand where I'm coming from. Like, following the entire chain that goes to making a Formula One car, and operating it. Again, I can believe they go to all electric, but that's not the same thing as carbon footprint free. And the electronics that go into making these, like, and all the components that they made to, like, if they needed to mine like lithium or something, that was done in a fossil fuel free manner too. I'm saying, this stuff is so entrenched in just everything that, like, it's such a daunting problem. Like, I think approaching this here's the simple version. I think approaching this problem like it's anything less than World War II means it's just a joke almost. So, I mean, yeah, you can make it better for your company and try to cut down on it, but it's not really getting to the core of the problem. Okay, have you tried the family sharing feature on Steam? Just in trying to get me interested off a friend's library. Yeah, I have in the past, but not lately. I remember it being a real hassle, and it gave problems and wanted a lot of authentication, that sort of thing. Is there any part of Half-Life 2 you think will be difficult to pull off in Freeman's mind? Uh-oh, the chat clipped. Freeman's mind 2. No, the dam was the part I was most worried about. I'm trying to think of other sections. The dam just felt so out of character. Like we're not treating this as real. We're treating this too much like a game. You know, so. Was the part where Dog got his ball in Freeman's mind cut out for time or something else? That one wasn't time, actually. That one was, I just felt like Freeman's state of mind, we're just, I mean, look at what happened to him in all the prior episodes. And it's like every time he goes, everywhere he goes, new troops keep coming back up. So he's assuming they're going to send more troops and scour the land for him. Like, he can't relax. I mean, like, what? And they're giving him no reasons to relax. And that's actually something that comes from my own personality, is if I think there's a really serious problem and people are just dismissing it, but they're not giving me good reasons to dismiss it. Like, oh, they'll never find us. We're like totally EMP dark. Like, this just looks like ruins from the air. Like, it's very unlikely they're gonna find us. Then, like, okay, maybe he could relax. But no, they're there out in the quarry or whatever that opening was with the lights on, and they're probably gonna be searching the nearby area. So I figured Freeman he wouldn't keep going with this crap. He's like, you know, it's like he can't, he could entertain it a little bit, but then it just keeps gnawing at him that, like, no, this is dangerous. They're probably gonna find me here. We need to get ready. You know, I can't keep playing games. And that didn't seem particularly important to the plot. So, yeah, I noticed a lot of people saying, oh, you're doing a real good job on, like, portraying the PTSD, Ross. And I was thinking, I wasn't even thinking of it like that. I was just thinking, like, if I was in that situation, that's what I would be doing. So maybe I have a little bit of PTSD from other things. I mean, like, realizing that, like, this threat's real, so I've got to do it. What themes in vampire fiction do you find particularly interesting? Well, I really like the gothic aesthetic that comes with a lot of them. I like the what? The sort of, depending on the vampire story, it kind of turns society upside down a little bit. Like, you know, that we're not playing by the rules we thought we were playing by, you know. I enjoy that element of it. I kind of like the aspect that there's like this, like, much more powerful being, but it's unclear as to, like, I guess I like how it sort of calls into the question, like what is the fate of humanity? Because, like, let's say it's like just a more, like, you know, your traditional powerful vampire, but then it's vulnerable to stuff like holy water or stuff like that. Well, okay, well, I figured that's kind of a giveaway that establishes, like, a holy presence, right? But then if the vampires are really powerful, well, then it's like, well, is this even a sure thing for that humanity is gonna make it? Like, okay, like, we have the divine presence here on our side, so maybe we make it in the long term, or do we? I mean, like, so I kind of like that kind of question as to, like, okay, well, even if we have God on our side, is that enough? Like, you know, so I like that element of it. And just, like, having sort of the tactics of them trying to avoid sunlight can be interesting, that sort of thing. So, but, yeah, that's a... Okay, you play opinions about Clint Hawking and the Unified Player Agency, which is a methodology to design emergent narrative where players' lower level inputs are discerned by the game, but for larger patterns, which are then propagated to the higher levels of gameplay, including narrative. So narrative becomes a property of the game dynamics rather than pre-authored content. Okay, you know, okay, I think I might be getting the quote wrong. I think Feynman said this, where he says, if you it was something like, if you can't explain a concept in simple terms, then you don't fully understand it. I feel like we have a little bit of that here. You're gonna need to dumb this down a little bit for me. And it sounds like the gameplay emerges from, or the theme of the game emerges from the gameplay. Like maybe that's something like DayZ-ish, where they just sort of set the gameplay. You need to simplify this. You're getting too much. You're getting too. Okay, here's a secret about college. I was gonna say you're getting too college level. The secret about college is a whole lot of college. They're not actually saying something that's such that's such a high level concept that you really can have no perception of what they're talking about unless you understand like this laundry list of terminology and interactions, how they relate to each other. A whole lot of it comes across like obfuscation for its own sake. Not all of this. Like if you're getting into high level math, yeah, no, you really kind of need to know exactly what it is. And they can kind of prove the complexity of it. A lot of sciences. But again, once you get into stuff like literature and humanities, there's a whole lot going on there that you could communicate 99% of the same concept with just simpler language or better analogies, or maybe 80 to 90% of the concept with that, and then that bottom 10%, then you need more intricate terms and that sort of thing. And you're giving me that vibe there. You got a little too college level for me. Where I would need like 10 to 20 minutes to fully understand exactly what it is you're describing. But even then, it might use language where there's more than one interpretation for the word that you said. So we're still not communicating as clearly, as efficiently as we could. I'm not for dumbing things down, but I am for what? I'm not for complexity for its own sake, unless it's like we're having fun. Like if it's a puzzle game, that's complexity for its own sake, you know? If we're trying to communicate, it's not as helpful, I found. Okay. For Game Dungeon, do you record your entire playthrough or do you just record highlights? Lately, it's been the playthrough, and that might be more the case for future edit. Yeah, I should warn editors. You're kind of, if you want to apply for this, you're kind of signing off for a little more than that, because there's sometimes you're going to need to, got 3.5 hours. I got to cut this short. Sometimes it's the way I've written things doesn't actually match to where the footage is. Like if I'm talking about a cutscene, the cutscene's too short. And you need to be able to step in and tell me, you need to be a bit of a second director and say like, Ross, I think I see what you're doing here, but it just doesn't work with the footage you gave me. Or I need more shots. Like, I think it would be a lot better if you just had this, while you're talking about this, if you just had like a continuous shot rather than doing all this, the camera moving around for this part, and we don't have enough footage for that. So you kind of need to be able to tell me things that don't work. Or if one part's feeling kind of mundane to you, like, hey, you sure you want to have this? It seems kind of like you're repeating this part. So you can kind of spot check me a little bit. And the other thing is, you may need to look through a lot of footage to find like some of the right shots. So it's a little more than just an editor. So if that discourages you, then like, yeah, I want to warn you up front. Yeah. It depends on the episode. For some games, I just record the highlights because it's a little more coordinated, but others I'm trying to record through the full thing. Like I think Deus Ex, like the Human Revolution in Deus Ex, I kind of recorded just the highlights because like I recorded spots and then I kind of went back like, okay, what shots do I need? Okay, I have like a big list and I went through and did the tech develops on every part of the chain, eventually leading to zero, as close to zero as can. It's inevitable. Oh, okay, they're probably referring to the race car thing. Maybe, but then don't say it's carbon neutral. Say we've reduced this by this percent. I mean, that's better marketing, but you're lying. And one of my pet peeves, especially for serious things, is like sort of unfounded optimism. Like, okay, like you're making people think we solved the problem when we didn't. I mean, your approach that you're talking about, it could be correct, that, you know, as we try to approach zero, it gets so close to zero, it may as well be. But the way I see it, there are enormous incentives right now in pushing back the other way. Like, I think I heard lately, I need to check the name, that the Supreme Court right now is ruling, or they're examining a case that, depending on what the ruling is, they could decide that the EPA does not have the authority to regulate carbon emissions unless Congress passes a law on that. So it's like, wow, that would be a big push in the opposite direction if you're trying to control carbon emissions. Literally saying, like, the number one enforcement agency of that cannot enforce it. So, and then having that go through Congress, well, then there's a lot of money interest there that are going to push back against it. So it's, yeah, this is not a good time for like false optimism, in my opinion. So, and I feel like saying, oh, we'll be carbon neutral by this date, that's false optimism. And not carbon neutral, zero emissions. So now, if you want to say we're going electric, that's a lot different. You know, that doesn't sound like fantasy to me. Okay. Said used to playthroughs of Diablo go for a year or two, you got burned out. How many years of doing it did it take for you to get burned out? I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. It's not like burned out, it's just like, I kind of feel like I know it. I'd rather do something fresh. I mean, I think Diablo is a great game. It's just that I've seen it and I know it too well, you know? Okay, these last 3 ones, and then I'm ending it. The idea is the game reads your decisions and modifies itself based on that. Like, you choose to shoot your way into multiple areas, the stealth elements are de-emphasized. I think that's pretty cool when you can pull it off. That's a lot of work, though. I mean, it's a lot easier to have a linear game and have just, you know, a couple styles you can approach. But yeah, Sin Episodes tried to do some of that with it, like with your attack styles, where they're all wearing helmets if you're doing a lot of headshots. But no, I think that's great, especially because I'm not huge on stealth. Did you see Half-Life 3 being a VR exclusive? I did not see that. I'm okay with that. I think that takes guts. But like this, that makes more sense to me than a metaverse from Facebook. That's not a smart move for maximum sales, but I understand if Valve has drunk the VR Kool-Aid and they're in a position to push it forward. It's going to get some fan backlash, but I can at least understand what they're trying to do there. Although I'll say this, even as someone who's heavily into VR, I think sometimes, like when I would just want to relax, I don't feel like VR all the time because it can be a bit overwhelming. I have to be kind of in the right mood for it. So if I have a hard day and like my eyes feel kind of tired, I may not want to do VR. You know, I might just want like a more normal game. So maybe they should take that into consideration. I can at least understand why they're doing it. And again, that makes more sense than Facebook's metaverse to me. Okay, last one. Ross, I tried editing part of Echo. Should I try again? You were a finalist. Your problem was when I gave you these suggestions, like, okay, maybe try to revise this stuff. I thought it came out worse than the original. So you made me wonder, what the hell should I expect from you? Because you were one of the best. But then when I needed you to like revise some stuff and then like it got worse, I was like, what the hell's going on then? So yeah, maybe. When I get around to setting up another test, well, I'll let you be in the running, okay? Someone's mentioned the Snakerer reviews. I recognize that name, but I forget what those are. He mentioned me in it. Okay. You can use any of my stuff. Look, any of my videos or whatever, or anything I say, if it's even remotely fair use, go for it. You know, it's not, you can, Yeah, it's I'm not gonna come and police that, but yeah, I should probably check out more of his. Well, hey, maybe I'll have more time. Maybe I'll have more time. Okay, I went 3.5 hours again. I keep thinking I want to keep this around 2 hours. That hasn't happened in like a year, I don't think. So maybe longer. Okay, thanks for showing up. I can promise being done with voice work on a game dungeon in a Freeman's Mind and probably a side video this month. I'm not promising anything for what's coming out this month, but hopefully it's going to be there's more variables involved. And as soon as I'm done with this next game dungeon, I think depending on how the editing is looking, working with another editor, I hope to jump right into the Christmas episode to give ourselves as much lead time as possible. And then if that's done, I'll go back to other videos. So the Christmas one might be done out of order. I think I have a decent candidate for it because it's another one of those where I'm finding things to say. I keep finding things to say on it. And this will be a more mainstream game. So you can try and guess what I'm thinking of there. This is definitely a more mainstream game that I'm thinking of for Christmas. So, okay, I think that's it. Yeah, I gotta go eat. I'll see you.